calling to order the Historic Landmarks Commission agenda of August 14th, 2024. First item on the agenda is roll call.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call. Vice Chair House.
I'm here.
Commissioner Butler.
Here.
Commissioner Dordan.
Here.
Commissioner Drury.
Here.
Commissioner Ensberg.
Here.
Commissioner Lindvik.
Here.
Commissioner McClure.
Here.
Commissioner Uli.
Just in time.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment on items that are not on today's agenda.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair House. At this time, I do have one speaker slip for Sherry Ray. If you want to make your way up to the podium, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. City TV, can you zoom in on this? Oh.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I greatly value that we have a Historic Landmarks Commission to address our community's natural, architectural, and cultural legacy. However, without enforcement power, your good work is not enough to preserve and protect our precious resources that are not named landmarks or attached to an upcoming project. I'm here today to express my support for the idea of a Department of Historic Preservation that has been recently suggested as a topic for further exploration. In their work through the Plans and Planting Committee, Bernard Hoffman and Pearl Chase used the phrase, our community mosaic, the bits and pieces of Santa Barbara that have been carefully assembled into a cohesive piece of art that invites exploration and greater understanding and appreciation. But losses over time have had their effect. It's become a bit of a scramble to keep up when it's really nobody's specific job to attend to the myriad historic details that make Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara. In the past few months, I've shown you several examples of these delightful details that have fallen into disrepair, and they need someone's attention under someone's authority, but whose? Here's another example picture that I pass by regularly. It's the graceful staircase and railing at the corner of Figueroa and Laguna Streets. Even though the cement on the far right was repaired at some point, half the railings are missing. We can do better than this, than just shrug it off and say when it's gone, it's gone. The proper repair and restoration of this corner and other places could come under the purview of a Department of Historic Preservation to replace the missing pieces of our community mosaic. The very existence of such a department would help raise awareness and reinforce our commitment to preserving our unique heritage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Staff, is there any information on process?
Are you, through the chair to the commission, are you asking about any movement on the request for the discussion about the Department for Historic Preservation? So at this time, staff, we've received a huge influx of submittals to the Historic Landmarks Commission, so that has taken priority. We've been too impacted to delve further into the requested discussion items, but we will return with updates when we have time.
Okay, thank you.
I think we mentioned at the last meeting that we are waiting for the supervisor to come back from maternity leave, as this would be a discussion for her to have with you as to what is not being addressed now that would like to be addressed and how the city can approach that, as that would be something. It would obviously come from council through the city manager all the way down to create a whole new department. So we need her here to even begin this discussion.
Do you think we can expect this year that we might have this discussion?
I think she'll be back in September. We can ask her what she thinks. I don't know. That's awfully fast for city time. If you know what I mean.
Well, I'm good at pushing.
I know. So, but I do think it's more of a conversation with Ellen Kokinda than as a place to start, and she can talk it up the line. Good. Or to council, and it come down from there.
And Vice Chair and Commissioners, if I could just add,
The creation of a new city department is a very big undertaking, as I'm sure you can imagine. This would require decisions at the highest levels of the city. Of course, we'd like the commission's input on it. Of course, right. We'd like the commission's input on that, and we'll try to schedule a discussion sometime soon on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got public comment.
Nope, we still have to do virtual public comment part of the
Okay.
interruption. So I don't have any further speaker slips at this time. So I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. I'm not seeing any hands raised, but we did receive written correspondence from Stephen Fountain that was distributed to the commission prior to the hearing. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I will close general public comment, and we'll move on to approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of July 31st, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Are there any corrections or
Yes, Mr. Chair.
additions? Commissioner Drury.
Yes, on the first page, we need to put whoever Kevin is, Kevin Hart or Kevin Bacon, whoever it is who spoke, we need to make sure his last name is put in there. That's all I have.
You have that, staff?
Yes, pardon the interruption, through the chair to the commission. So that his name was submitted as Kevin in the written correspondence that he submitted, and we just write whatever they submit. So since he didn't provide a last name, it won't be included.
Maybe he doesn't have one.
Yeah, maybe not.
that's true. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Any others? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. We have a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Drury?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindvik?
Abstain?
Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner McClure?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And then approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission consent meeting of July 31st, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Uli, second by Drury. Any corrections or changes?
Vice Chair House, on page 4, number 3, I think to be clear about the statement here, the original East Anapamu Italian stone pines will be gone in the next 100 years, so it is important to have a long-term plan for replacement of the street canopy. I think something like over time, somehow to indicate that we're not going to wait 100 years.
Pardon my interruption.
Yeah.
I believe you might be, we're reviewing the consent minutes from the July 31st.
Oh, we're on this, oh, I'm sorry. I was on July 17th. Sorry.
Ah,
Okay, never mind. We'll come
That
back
makes
to that.
sense. So any comments or corrections on the consent meeting of July 31st? Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Drury?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindvik?
Yes.
Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner McClure?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. And then item D is ratification of action taken on the consent calendar of August 14th,
So moved.
2024. We have a motion by
Second.
Uli, second by Drury. Let's see. So actually, we need staff report on.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair House. Item A was 324 West Figueroa Street, which received project design approval with the conditions to eliminate any colors in the color scheme that are not being used in this proposal and return with color chips. Item B was 210 East Ortega Street, which received project design approval and final approval with the conditions that, if possible, conduits on the front elevation should be concealed within the building structure or painted to match the existing building, and use 3/4 to 1 inch angular tan gravel instead of pea gravel, and then the appropriate findings. And then item C was 1212 Castillo Street, which received project design approval and final approval with the comment that the commission would support removal of the fence in the rear yard if allowed by transportation.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions about the consent calendar? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindvik?
Yes.
Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner McClure?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Drury?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item E is announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. Staff, do you have any reports?
Mr. Vice Chair House, yes, I do. So I'd like to just acknowledge that there was an email sent out from our department regarding the fall 2024 Board and Commission recruitment. So please, if you haven't done so, read that. I'm going to go through the dates here just to kind of let you know what's going on. So City Council is expected to approve the schedule for the recruitment at their August 27th meeting, so that's when applications should be opening. Currently, we have 4 commissioners who are going to be termed out at the end of this year who would need to reapply if they want to continue to serve on the commission.
Nope, sayonara.
Those are Chair Grumbine, Vice Chair House, and Commissioners Lenvik and Dordan. So if you would like to reapply to be on the commission, you need to do so. The application deadline will be September 25th at 5 p.m. Interviews will be held in 3 dates in late October, and then appointments will occur on November 19th. While I have you here, I'd also like to put in a plug for the open vacancy on the Single Family Design Board. If you or you know somebody who might be interested in applying, it would be great for staff to speak with them. So please feel free to refer them to me or Nicole or Heidi, and we can try to fill that position. That's a really high priority for us to fill that vacancy this go round. Any brief questions?
No questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from staff? Okay. Any announcements? Yeah, I'll turn off my cell phone. That's an announcement.
Saved by the bell.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have some show and tell a little bit. I told you about the walking tour I went on in LA, and the subject of the Atlantic Richfield building that was demolished came up, and I remembered, I have a book about that. And in fact, it was written by David Gebhard. And it was demolished in 1968. And I remember going down there because they were having a sale of things that they took out of the building. And I didn't buy anything. I think I was kind of late to the sale, so about the only thing left were urinals. But anyway, it's a fascinating book, and I'll pass it around. You can take a look at it. And then also on that walking tour, there was an artist named Leo Politi who lived in Bunker Hill. And he wanted to document the neighborhood before it got destroyed, and he did a great book of illustrations, which now, if you can find it, goes for like $500. And so I did buy one of his books. He wrote a lot of children's books, and he got the Caldecott Prize for one of them. But he frequently personalized this when he signed it. And they're great illustrations, so I'll pass this around as well. Okay.
That way.
Sure. Okay, subcommittee reports. Item F.
One question. Thank you for sharing that with us, Vice Chair House. What you said that he wanted to document the neighborhood before it was destroyed. Was it just planned to be, or was he just anticipating that was inevitable, or what was?
I don't know the exact timeline, but I think it was pretty clear the city government wanted to revitalize that area, and they just shaved off the top of the hill so they could build what's there now. And the Angels Flight Railway got relocated. It wasn't even going to get reinstalled, and there was a hue and cry about that. So it's sad. It was a beautiful neighborhood. So, okay, so moving on to item F, subcommittee reports. Are there any?
Mr. Chair, it's not really a report, but a question of staff. I'm just trying to figure out where it is in the process. Based on public comment, there was a suggestion that we create a subgroup, working group, committee, whatever it's supposed to be called, to look at living landmarks. And I thought we were waiting to hear if it could be a work group or a committee or whatever it is. Do you have any?
So
That would be trees, not people, right?
Well,
could be
if
both.
we're over 50, we're a living landmark,
Yeah.
but primarily landscape and hardscape, yeah.
So through the chair to the rest of the commission, so per the city attorney, I believe I sent out some correspondence from Tava Ostringer. Only city council can direct us to start a subcommittee, whether ad hoc or a regular subcommittee, and then working groups are related to specific staff projects. However, because the issue of living landmarks is a very important one, especially to this commission, and it's evolving. We are working on bringing that as a discussion item. I'm going to work with the chair on that. We've just, as I've said before, its staff workload has been impacted. So I will return to you with updates on that as soon as I've had the chance to work with Chair Grumbine on developing kind of an agenda or a better idea of what we want to discuss and how we want to focus that discussion.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Commissioner.
Reporting on objective design and development standards. The current draft was presented to the Planning Commission at a meeting on August the 8th. There was a very good discussion. It goes back to the Planning Commission for a second discussion on August the 29th. And my understanding is that the next step is the Planning Commission would recommend to City Council.
Okay. Does that conclude all the subcommittee reports? I guess so. Then we'll move on to the first item on the agenda. Item 1 is an archaeology report for 3805 State Street. Do we have a presenter here, or? Oh, please come on up. Staff, do you have any?
No comments from staff at this time, other than that the project is not a historic site or within a historic district, so only the archaeological report is coming to you for review and approval, and then the project will go to ABR for approval.
Okay. This is the proposal to demolish the existing multi-story structure, Macy's, at 3805 State, and associated parking, and construct a 689-unit mixed-use housing project under the City of Santa Barbara Average Unit Density Program. So,
Can I show your microphones on?
yeah. Okay. There you go.
Conducted the Phase 1 archaeological assessment of this property. There are no previously recorded archaeological sites on the property. The closest one is along Hope north of State Street. It is listed as being no longer extant, as being completely destroyed. There's another one on the other side, on the east side of Hitchcock, behind the Chick-fil-A. But there's obviously going to be no impact at that distance. Despite the fact that there was very little soil visible because it's mostly a parking deck, the past disturbance there is substantial. We've got aerial photos from when this was being shown that you're excavating 10, 12 feet down to create this. The geotech report shows you get 9 feet of fill underneath this. So the fact is there is no soil that's native or intact that could hold cultural deposits left on the property.
Right. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question. Maybe it's to staff, but why are we seeing this report now? There are press reports that there's current negotiations going on over future development agreements. And I'm just curious, it seems like the actual construction is still years off. So I'm just wondering about the timing. Why are we being asked to accept this now?
Staff, would you like to answer that question?
I think that question could probably best be answered by the project's case planner. I don't know if that is, I believe, the case planner. She'll be able to answer that for you. And just maybe while we're waiting for her to open public comment quickly, before we get into questions.
Oh, okay. So if that concludes your presentation, we'll open public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, and I'm not seeing any movement, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. I'm not seeing any hands raised, and we didn't receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I'll close public comment if you could let us know.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Patsy Price. I'm a contract planner to the city and the case planner for the 3805 State Street project. The applicant submitted their formal application, and we did one round of review of that application. It was determined incomplete, and they got a list of comments that they're required to respond to. Typically, during the time when we're reviewing the application for completeness is when an archaeological report would come to your commission for review. And so we've started that process, and that's why we are bringing it forward as part of the normal course of processing. I do understand that there is discussion of a development agreement that will be at the city council, but at this point, the project is still on regular timelines for processing, and so we're continuing that process until we get direction from the council that something has changed.
Thank you for that explanation. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the report as submitted?
I'll move to approve the archaeological report as written.
Second.
I think I heard Butler as a second first. Second. So motion by Uli, second by Butler. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Lindvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item 2, structure of merit designation for 230 West Valerio Street. This is a request to adopt Resolution 2024-06 designating the craftsman-style residence constructed in 1912 an historic structure of merit. Staff? And would the residents, property owners like to come up? If you'd like, you don't have to. We can't make you.
You're welcome to sit there.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Okay,
Dealer's choice.
yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. This is a nomination for Structure of Merit designation that was recently reviewed by the Designation Subcommittee and recommended to the full board for designation. That was in craftsman-style house constructed in 1912, and as you can see it here in its current configuration. What's really unique about this specific house is the story of the restoration behind the house. First of all, you can see it here. When this is a 1931 Sanborn map, you can see the whole block was built out. And there are many structures of merits on this block as well, so it really retains its sense of setting. But the current owners who are here today really began an extensive rehabilitation of this building in 1980 to its original condition. And this is really sweet because the Old House Journal actually featured their story, and as it says in your staff report, that this beautiful craftsman became owned by a Air Force captain in the 1960s who embarked on a campaign to eradicate every single bit of craftsman features on the house, including replacing many of the original features. However, when Bob Sponsel bought the house in 1980, he had a hard time telling what it originally was, but he was able to find the captain who in his meticulous work, took all before and after photos, so we knew what it looked like before. And that was really where a clear vision materialized, and they, because Santa Barbara in the 80s was demolishing more craftsmen, they were able to salvage materials from other craftsmen to match the original, and really bring this building back to what it was. So it's a great preservation story. It's kind of something I wish I could do that to a house. That would be my dream. Anyway, so I love it. So it does retain its location, setting, materials, design, workmanship, feeling, and association as a craftsman-style house. And it has the following character-defining features of a craftsman house, including the wide overhanging eaves, held up by the huge, large knee brackets, the wood shingles and the open front gable, the massive piers on the square porch posts, The wide wood front door with the vertical beveled glass over the big panel, the big pane over panel wood window you see in this photo with the divided lights in the top sash, OG lugs, and even the canted wood in the trim, and a red brick chimney on the side. The house also features one of Santa Barbara's beautiful ashlar cut sandstone walls that's 3 courses right along the streetscape. So in a quick summary, the house is an original 1912 craftsman-style house and retains the required historic integrity to meet criterion 3 of the Santa Barbara Municipal Code.
Thank you very much. Do we open this to public comment?
We
Yes.
do,
So we'll
yes.
Open this to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, and I'm not seeing any movement, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. I'm not seeing any hands raised, but we did receive written correspondence from, sorry, my mouse glitched out. We received written correspondence from Mickey G. that was distributed to the commission prior to the hearing. With that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. I'll close public comment. Open it to questions or comments from the commission.
Vice
Commissioner
Chair House,
Hansberg.
thank you. This is so beautiful. I would be so curious to see what, if there were any pictures of it before.
Did you bring them with you?
Did you bring any by chance?
No.
No.
Guess not.
Because it's,
Surprise is that we decided in the whole process that we didn't take that many photos.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just such a, be great to see where it was and then where you brought it to. And, this type of work is a labor of love, and it's not inexpensive, but it's worth it. It's just so gorgeous, and just makes you feel so good just to see it. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful house. And thank you for doing it. Thank you.
Well.
If we can make comments.
Commissioner Lenvick would like to make a motion.
Okay.
I would move that we adopt Resolution 2024-06, designating, the house at 230 West Valeria Street, which is a craftsman-style residence, as a structure of merit.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden?
Yes.
Commissioner Jury?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Linvig?
Yes.
Commissioner McClure?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So this commission greatly appreciates what you've put into this house, and I'm afraid you're going to have to come up now to get your certificate.
It was a 30-year effort.
Oh, I bet.
This is a real honor for our house.
Well, we're honored. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you pass that down to staff? Okay. Moving on to the next item. Item 3 is Mills Act contract applications. So there are 2 groups of them here. The first group we will just approve, and the second group we recommend to City Council. So,
And I can go through all of them, and then you can pull out the ones you have questions on and open public comment.
sounds good.
All right? Okay, here we go.
Actually, maybe I should read the project, the item description. the
Okay.
agenda description. This is a review of proposed Mills Act Program 10-year rehabilitation plans and recommend to the Community Development Director to approve the Mills Act contracts for the properties listed below. The proposed 10-year rehabilitation plans meet the criteria outlined in the municipal code and have been recommended for Historic Landmarks Commission review by the Designation Subcommittee at their meeting on July 15th. So the addresses are 1723 Santa Barbara Street, 321 East Islay Street, 1126 Santa Barbara Street, 1770 Prospect Avenue, 1516 Delavina Street, and 1334 Alameda Padre Serra.
Okay, so that's group one, and always I have a quick intro to the Mills Act for the public and anybody interested. So this program was established by state law that was enacted in 1972, where owners receive a property tax reduction for restoring and maintaining their historic properties. Santa Barbara adopted the program in 2009, joining 90 other communities in California, and updated the program rules and procedures in 2019. And we now have, we have 75 active Mills Act contracts. And this does fulfill our general plan goal to provide government incentives for historic preservation, historic resources element policy HR 10. And currently, any project that is under 2.5 million for residential or 3 million for commercial can be approved by the Historic Landmarks Commission. Those that exceed that go to council for final approval. And we can have a total annual revenue loss of $260,000. Let's see, we have an average annual revenue loss to the city per contract right now is averaging $1,683. The estimated loss for 75 contracts is $131,312, and with the 11 more presented today with 3 renewals, we estimate that the annual revenue loss will be $149,572. So we're still about $100,000 under the cap. So plenty of room for all the applicants applying at this time, and more to come. So we have, to begin with, 1732 Santa Barbara Street. This is a structure of merit constructed in 1888 as a barn of the Howard residence and has been converted into a single-family residence. And the project includes major rehab, including structural foundation, main roof beams, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and reconfiguring the interior and restoring the original porch and replacing deteriorated stair parts. We're finishing redwood floors, add beadboard ceiling, and adding a new primary bedroom. The scope of work has already been reviewed by HLC and approved, and the maintenance of the exterior will be continual with repainting the wood and replacing the roof. The next project is one that needs more work than most of the houses I've seen in Santa Barbara. It has been neglected for a very long time. It is a structure of merit constructed in 1914, designed by Windsor Sewell, FAIA, for his own residence in the American colonial revival style, and has new owners that want to, they're going to do a complete rehab, including stripping the exterior paint and replacing and repairing damaged wood, shutters, repairing the original windows, repairing it plaster, addressing basement water ingress issues, restoring all the interior surfaces, and seismic retrofit, landscape rehabilitation, as well as utility upgrades, rebuilding the deteriorated garage, and remodeling kitchen and bathrooms. And our next project is on a city landmark designed in 1930, the Shower Printing Company by Edwards and Plunkett at 1126 Santa Barbara Street. This is across Santa Barbara Street from the courthouse. This is an adaptive reuse project. They're changing it from law offices into a salon. So most of the rehab work will include demolition of the commercial space and remodel for the use of the salon, but will also include new plumbing, structural, electrical, handicap construction, and repainting the exterior, rehabbing the exterior winding staircase, and removing, they have some non-historic front pavers, and someone replace the original front door and putting those back to something period appropriate that will kind of relate to the courthouse across the street. And that concludes that one. And our next one is 1770 Prospect, a structure of merit constructed in 1924 in the Spanish colonial revival style. This also includes a large interior remodel, upgrading the plumbing, electrical, insulation, and appliances, restoring the fireplace, preserving the olive trees, and exterior landscaping, and they also want to move the front door back to its original location, which was at the top of the stairs. You can see the ghost line of where it was, and this is the original door and the really intricate, beautiful original windows. So I believe that concludes the first batch. No, we have a couple more. Oh my
Two
gosh,
more.
there's so many. And then we have 15, 16, which got lost in here. They got stuck together. 15, 16 De La Vina Street is also one that has been neglected for a long time and needs a lot of work. And the new owners are planning to take the structure Merit, constructed in 1890 in the stick style, and do structural stabilization, installing a new roof, chimney repair. The back porch was enclosed, and they want to open it up again as a rear deck. And they also enclosed a lot of the windows, and they want to reopen those to add more light, repair broken decorative woodwork, replace the current front. They have a front fence that's really high. I think people park behind there. They're going to remove that so you can open up the house again and restore all the wood sash windows, termite abatement, and remodel the upstairs bathrooms and kitchen. And we also have 1334 Alameda Padre Serra, a structure of merit constructed in 1926 in the Spanish colonial revival style. Again, this is a interior rehab, upgrading all the knob and tube wiring, updating the radiators and boilers, repainting all the rooms and deteriorated plaster, installing the new water heaters, sinks, faucet pipes, putting appropriate lighting, termite remediation, and remodeling the kitchen and bathrooms. Foundation work, refinishing the floors, re-landscaping, installing exterior lighting, repainting, restoring the red tile roof, refinishing the driveway, and resurfacing carports, and restoring windows and hardware and electrical. And that concludes the batch, the first batch.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to public comment, I should point out that on the agenda, number 1 was 1723 Santa Barbara Street, but your slide was 1732.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a typo.
So which is the correct?
It's 23.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Public comment, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, and I'm not seeing any movement, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. I do see one hand raised for Beverly Trials, so I'll go ahead and give you permission to speak, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. So my question, number one, I'm very glad that that this Mills Act has been adopted by the city because we have some lovely structures. Excuse me. That is wonderful to have them be. Can you give me some water, please? My question is, what procedures does the city have in place to ensure that the amount of money that's between, what they would pay in real estate taxes, from what I understand, and what they will end up paying because of being given the designation of structure of merit. What procedures does the city have in place to ensure that the money is actually spent correctly and in a timely fashion for these structures? The city is really stretched thin, from what I've seen, to try to get residents to keep up their buildings as it is. And I'm wondering whether this is just going to end up being kind of an honor system, and maybe, 20 years from now, find out that the inside of a structure of merit doesn't look any better than it did, when it was designated. So I'm wondering if there's any teeth, you might say, to any employee of the city that comes by once a year or so to see what's happening. Because it's one thing to have laws on the books, and it's another thing to have them enforced. So it's kind of more of an education for me and anybody else who has the same question. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Staff, do you have an answer for that?
Yes. Part of the contract outlines that every year the applicants supply a progress report and all receipts of money spent. And so every year I send out a reminder to all the applicants to submit their annual progress report, sending before and after photos of work accomplished and all receipts. And periodically, I'll go over and look at the after projects, especially when they're big total rehabs. I'll go to the after project site visit and take all the photos. In my experience, and I keep track of all of them, I have never seen anybody spend less than what they get back. They always spend more than, like, triple what they get back in taxes. It's a small help for these restorations, but they usually cost a lot more, and most of the applicants are really enthusiastic and love the project, so they usually call me about every little detail they're doing and invite me over. So I don't see a lot of people ignoring and just using this in a negative way, but we do have the annual progress report as part of their contract, and if they don't turn it in, I can use my mom voice and tell them if they don't turn it in, I have the right to cancel their contract.
Thank you very much, Mom. I mean,
That's as mean as I get.
yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Uli.
I suspect that the average $1,600 tax savings barely covers the permitting fees involved to do all of these projects. So it's not like, they're getting a huge windfall. It's just a tiny fraction of what these things cost.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I should clarify that is the loss to the city's budget, but we only get 12%. The county takes the bigger hit.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
I know. All right, so that's just to clarify. And
Thank
keep it
you.
all transparent.
Are any of the property owners for this first group here and want to come up and say anything?
I did bring something that I said I was going to bring last time.
Okay. Go on up to the podium and make sure the microphone is on.
It's more I just wanted to show you. I was going to give it to you at the end.
An old nail?
It's for Nicole, but I think it's very cool.
You nailed it.
A nail from our old house.
That's fun. Yeah, old square nail. Yeah.
That's great.
Show you your pile of square nails.
I don't know, Kyle.
That can be in our,
And through the-
in our display when we have our new Department of
Yeah,
Historic
yeah.
Preservation.
Commissioner Lenvick has a question.
Yeah, staff, are we going to act on these individually as opposed to a group?
No, and then just really quickly, if we could make sure that we close public comment before moving on, but yes, you can vote on them as a group, so it would be, the motion would be to recommend to the Community Development Director to approve the Mills Act
Okay,
contracts.
I will close public comment, and
So
you
it'd be
want to
item
make a
3 that
motion?
you're moving on. Are you suggesting to make a motion, or
Either I can or you can.
I'll second if you make the motion, or the other way around.
I'm going to make a motion to approve Mills Act contracts for the following structures. 1723 Santa Barbara Street, which is a structure of merit. 321 East Haley Street, which is a structure of merit. 1126 Santa Barbara Street, which is a landmark. 1770 Prospect Avenue, which is a structure of merit. 1516 Delavina Street, which is a structure of merit. And 1334 Alameda Padre Serra, which is a structure of merit.
And this is a recommendation to the Community Development Director, correct?
True. These are really recommendations to the Community Development Director to approve Mills Act contracts.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Lenvick and a second by Uli. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Jury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindvik,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Staff, we are 15 minutes ahead of schedule. Can we proceed, or do we need to wait?
So I think we can proceed within 15 minutes to the start of the item,
Yeah.
so yes, you can.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4.
Take a long breath.
Yes, I will talk very slowly. Okay, this is Mills Act contract applications. Review of proposed Mills Act program 10-year rehabilitation plans and recommend to City Council to grant an exception to the Mills Act contract limits outlined in the Santa Barbara Municipal Code, and recommend that the Community Development Director approve the Mills Act contracts for the properties listed below. The proposed 10-year rehabilitation plans meet the criteria outlined in the Municipal Code and have been recommended for Historic Landmarks Commission review by the Designation Subcommittee at their meeting on July 15th, 2024. This group includes 1732 Santa Barbara Street, 2010 Garden Street, 2050 Garden Street, 1708 Paterno Road, 1924 Anacapa Street, 107 Jorgensen Lane. This is requesting renewal of a 10-year contract. 612 East Valerio Street, also requesting renewal. 403 Loma Alta Drive, requesting renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Let's see, I got this, the T and the-
Barbara.
I know. I fixed it on my rough draft, but I had already sent it off to the,
yeah.
let's see.
We're human.
I know.
Some of
Let's
us.
see. So we do have, the first candidate is 1732 Santa Barbara. This is a landmark constructed in 1904 in the Mission Revival style. Their scope of work includes repairing and repainting the exterior with special focus on the front columns and arbor, add insulation in the attic and for heating and cooling efficiency, remodeling upstairs bathroom, replacing, there's some of the roof has been replaced with faux plastic terracotta and putting it back to true terracotta. Upgrading the electrical panels and refinishing kitchen wood floors, repairing the sandstone foundation and drainage in the basement. Our next candidate is 2010 Garden Street, also a structure of merit constructed in 1894. It's a Mission Revival style by Arthur Page Brown. This is one of the Crocker Row houses. This house, the scope of work includes repairing the electrical inside and out, repairing floor heating, restoring the trellis that was damaged by termites, landscaping, including trimming the palms, and architect fees for kitchen and bedroom rehabilitation, kitchen rehabilitation, office rehabilitation, cellar rehabilitation, repair molding and trim paint in the living room, dining room, and front entry, repairing and replacing the red clay tiles to match existing, and in the back there's an addition that was done that doesn't have any clay tile, and to add it to that portion. Landscape maintenance, pest control maintenance, and in the it's unclear what date, but I think it's the 80s because the front door and 2 side windows in the historic photographs have clear panes like all the other Crocker Rows, and then these were installed with some really ornate 80s interpretation of stained glass. They want to put it back to its original configuration and repaint the exterior to colors to match the Santa Barbara color guide. Our third candidate is also a Crocker Row house at 2050 Garden Street. It's a structure of merit constructed in 1894 in the Mission Revival style by Arthur Page Brown. This house also has a lot of annual maintenance, including repairing original windows, sashes, and repainting the wood frames, addressing the cracking on the front porch columns, refinishing, repairing the front deck, wood floor repairs, and as they get scraped, front iron gate repairs and removing all the rust, removing wrought iron rust from the water fountain in the backyard, preserving water by replacing the leaking irrigation system, maintenance of the granite pathways, The garage doors need to be repaired and install a new high-tech controllers for the existing water and heater, replace the water boiler and complicated piping, exterior lighting, repairs and replacing thermostats and driveway repair, bathroom renovation, and lock renovation. Our next candidate is 1708 Paterno Road, a structure merit. The period of significance is 1929 when architects Sewell and Murphy redesigned the building to its existing configuration in the English arts and crafts style. Repair and replace electrical system, interior renovation including plaster, painting, seismic, structural upgrades, period-sensitive upgrades to the kitchen and bathrooms and interiors, and HVAC upgrades. Exterior renovation will include removal of non-historic windows and awnings in the pool and drainage and site improvements, and exterior plantings and upgrading the exterior landscaping. Also repainting the south-facing windows and doors, repairing and re-roofing the residence, repairing and maintaining the beautiful stone walls on the site, replacing the awnings, ongoing maintenance of the landscape, and repair of upper deck. Next, this is a typo again on the slide. It is 1924 Anacapa Street. It is a structure of merit constructed in 1920 in the American Colonial Revival style. It's termite remediation and repair, tree trimming maintenance, chimney repair and maintenance, repenting the dryer vent, landscaping maintenance, plumbing updates, installing a new water softener, window maintenance, installing furnaces, refinishing all the wood floors, and replacing the rear fence and gates, adding interior and repainting the interior and exterior, stabilizing the garage and paint and rafters and reinforcing and painting the garage storage areas, electrical upgrades, kitchen remodel, bathroom remodel, and installing a new roof. And now we have 3 renewals this year. At the end of every 10-year contract, they need to apply for a new 10-year contract. And this one is 107 Jorgensen, a structure of merit constructed in 1957 in the mid-century version interpretation of the Spanish colonial revival with adobe brick, designed by John Pittman, and they want to repair and restore and protect the adobe bricks that are getting damaged by just the weather, and create swales and other means to divert rain from the adobe brick, build French drains to, again, prevent water damage to the front of the house, gutter and downspout clean out, redirect away from the house, and repair the driveway. And they did, I also reviewed their 10-year plan, and they did complete the work that they had suggested they would do in the first 10-year plan. And I did an extensive site visit in 2017 when they were halfway through their scope of work. And we also have the renewal of 612 East Valerio Street, which is a structure of merit constructed in 1908 in the Queen Anne Free Classic style. This scope work includes windows to restore cracking and deteriorated windows, including ropes and pulleys, replacing roof sections. 2 of them were completed, one in 2020 and one in 2023, and now they're getting ready to do the next portion of the roof. Repainting in the interior bedrooms, ceilings, and wall plaster. There's been some water damage, and they will be replacing all that. Repainting over watermarks in the ceiling from the water damage, and replacing deteriorated windowsills to match. Termite treating the house, repairing the front porch stairs and side stairs, and the white wooden fence, and replacing non-original lights, fixtures, restoring the clawfoot tubs, and replacing vent covers with decorative covers, and replacing downstairs bathroom tile. They also did complete extensive work over the past 10 years as per their contract. And finally, we have 403 Loma Alta Drive, which is a landmark constructed in 1918. It's the Carl Oscar Borg House in the Mission Revival style. which we also think it's more Pueblo style, is our discussion at the designation subcommittee. They still, they do need to replace the existing built-up roof over the flat portions. And they still need to repair non-original flooring with materials that match original finishes. They want to replace non-original light fixtures with custom lights shown in the historic photographs. Replace the floor of the front balcony over the front entry with a waterproof surface, and wood window repair and restoration, and irrigation system restoration. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. We will open public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips. If you would you like to speak? You can make your way up to the podium. Yeah, you can fill out a speaker slip after. You can make your way up to the podium, and I'll just have you fill out a speaker slip after you speak.
After.
After. No,
No.
you can speak now.
Speak now, speaker slip later.
Got
Good.
it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I actually ask your indulgence. This is not about the structure of merit designation. There are some restrictions on this property that are confusing. There's an easement on this property that basically restricts the building envelope, cutting off 50% of the use of the land. And this property is not allowed to have an ADU on it. So where do I go? Because I've been all over and nobody seems to know how to deal with it.
You're referring to the Loma Alta Drive?
No, 107 Jorgensen Lane.
Ah.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
It's a 2.2 acre property, and there's some serious, I mean, the easement, which is supposedly owned now by Frontier Communication, was established in 1955, and they're not doing anything with it. So I would really like some support as to what am I supposed to do going forward.
Staff, do you have any advice?
So just to clarify, you are wishing to report unpermitted work at 107 Jorgensen or at a different property?
No, 107 Jorgensen.
So what you can do is file an enforcement complaint online. If you go to the city's website and just type into the search bar, file a complaint, it should take you to the page where you'll be able to file an enforcement case and just report the unpermitted work.
Great. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. At this time, I haven't received any further speaker slips, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. I'm not seeing any hands raised, and we didn't receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I will close public comment. Are there any property owners in this group that would like to come up and say something?
We're here,
You need to come to a microphone.
here to answer questions.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I will move on to questions from the commission.
Mr. Chair?
Oh,
I've been here before when we were getting the
come on up to a microphone, please.
certificate of merit. And my name's Tom Strickland, and my wife, Hades, and I are fortunate enough to be the current owners of 2010 Garden Street, the dog house. And,
Oh,
we
yeah.
take the responsibility for decorating the dog, which we take seriously, and it's a great deal of fun. Just this morning, I had my 2-year-old sitting on top of Rover, and we were waving at the cars that went by. So we're happy to, I'm happy to answer any questions. We have been working very closely with Nicole, who's spectacular. by the
She
way.
is, isn't she?
We think
She's
so.
very good. She's very knowledgeable, and she's been very helpful in guiding us through the process. So I'm pleased to answer any questions, and we appreciate that a program like this exists. If we end up getting through the process, it will be very helpful to helping us continue to protect the legacy of this amazing house.
Thank you.
We love the dog.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We
Good
do,
dog,
too.
good
It's-
dog.
And the
It's a
house.
beautiful, I mean, it's a beautifully crafted
It is.
sculpture, too. I mean, it has got real personality and expression. It's not just a kind of a vague impression of a dog, so.
I forget, is it bronze?
It's actually made of, oh, no, it's not bronze. It's made of
It's metal?
zinc.
Oh, zinc.
It weighs 340 pounds. Although I haven't tried
So
to
did
figure
they make that out of clay and then make a
I'm not
cast
sure.
or-
It's over 100 years old, and it's in the image of the then owner's lab, as the story goes, that he lived 18 years. The dog did, and was born on the same day as their first child. So it had a particular.
Is it like 1.5 scale? It's a little bigger?
Yes, it's 1. I would say that's what I would guess. 1.5.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's awesome. Great. Thank you.
Have a dog take care of.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just have a question about Loma Alta Drive. So do any of us know who Carl Oscar Borg was?
I'm not
One of the,
familiar. I've heard the name.
one of the great Western landscape painters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
Yes.
no idea he lived in Santa Barbara.
Oh.
Wasn't he a famous drunk along with, what's the other guy? Other guy in town.
I'm a famous drunk, but I
Oh,
don't.
yeah,
I
it
don't-
could have been you.
I don't think that's in our purview.
I think one of the neatest parts of the house is they have a whole wall of windows that he designed that just pull away so he could get those huge canvases in and out of his
Oh, I'll be
studio.
darned.
And they're still there, and they were really neat.
But they don't have any of his paintings.
You know, I don't. I
We
don't
shouldn't
think
ask,
so.
actually.
You can ask. It's Britt's house. We all know.
Thank you, thank you.
What about another artist who live on Loma Alta?
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, yes, Chair.
Commissioner Ensberg.
Two questions. One on the, let's see, where is it? On the, here it is, 1924 Anacapa, the American Revival. It's a gray house. Is that the original color, or do you know, or is that the color that, you said that they were going to be painting the exterior and the interior. I was just curious about that, how that's determined, what appropriate color would be, or what it was originally, or if that is the original color.
I don't know if this is the original. That you can do paint analysis to find the original color. Typically, when I work with applicants who want to change colors that aren't Spanish, colonial revival, more of these, Victorians, American colonial craftsmen, I give them examples of appropriate color palettes that were appropriate at the time. And if they are looking at something that's really appropriate for the time, as per we have a little section on paint in our style, in our historic resource design guidelines
Right.
that we worked on. If they want to go out of that traditional paint colors for that style, I would send them to consent. But if they're going with something that's very traditional, I work with them on the paint color palette.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just was curious about it and whether they were, just so interesting to scrape away and see what you might find that was there before. So I just didn't know whether that was part of what you get into with people. I suppose everybody's a little different now.
Sometimes, usually on bigger projects, like we did that for the library, we did a full paint analysis at the library before they repainted it.
Thank you for that. And then another question is about the dog. Is there a signature? Do we know who the artist of the dog is? Who is the sculptor of it? No?
We don't know that. We don't have that information. We understand that some time ago, that when you get the house, you get these dozen costumes that are up in the attic.
They go.
But you also get this huge collection of newspaper clippings. So it goes back for 50 years at least. And a lot of them are about the dog, more about the dog. And so there's a story that more than one of those was made at the time, and that there's another example of it somewhere else in the country. But we we plan on doing more research because we don't know exactly where it was cast or who the artist was.
Thank you. It makes me think of the what Ms. Ray was saying earlier about this community mosaic.
Yeah.
These things that are special to the community, but that aren't designated specifically. So it seems like that would fall into that category. And our next item is going to be a cow. So anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments, or somebody make a motion?
I'm
Ah.
one of the owners of 612 East Valerio, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's difficult to pick that stuff up on the record, so hopefully
Yeah.
the minute taker is doing well. Mr. Chair, if there are no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve initial Mills Act contracts for 1732 Santa Barbara Street, a landmark, 2010 Garden Street, a structure of merit, 2050 Garden Street, a structure of merit, 1708 Paterna Road, a structure of merit, and 1924 Anacapa Street, a structure of merit, and recommend that renewals, Mills Act renewals for 107 Jurgensen Lane, 612 East Valerio Street, and 403 Loma Alto Drive.
Second.
And this is a recommendation to
City
City
Council.
Council to grant an exception to the Mills Act contract limits and recommend that the Community Development Director approve the Mills Act contracts.
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Did you get the maker and the seconder? Okay. Call the roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jury?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindvig?
Yes.
Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner McClure?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, just as a general comment, to all that represents tens of thousands of dollars of investment in this community and historic resources. I think that is just phenomenal.
Yes, I would like to agree very wholeheartedly with that. I'm just so happy that we have this and that City Council had the wisdom to adopt this for us to be able to preserve our town. So thanks, and thanks to the subcommittee for your work.
Yes, thank you.
I'll end that with 1731 Santa Barbara Street is a Mills Act contract that you approved several years ago and just completed a full rehabilitation. And I will bring you the after photos. It's really stunning.
That's great.
We just got to do the final walkthrough last week. Yeah, so.
Okay. Well, I see we are 25 minutes ahead of schedule, and considering there may be more people coming for this item, let's adjourn until 10 minutes of 3.
Take a recess.
Yeah, or recess. are reconvening the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of August 14th, 2024. And the next item on the agenda is item 5, which is 900 Felinda Avenue. If you're the applicant, would you like to come forward?
Yes.
Okay. What's that? Right here. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right up front.
Yeah. Okay, this is designated a city landmark.
Right here.
Yeah. I have to gavel this guy. Commissioner. Okay, 900 Felinda Avenue, this is designated a city landmark. The Live Oak Dairy Building was designed in 1939 by Alexander D'Alfonso in the streamlined modern style. This is a proposal to relocate the iconic cow statue, which is a character-defining feature. And this is a one-time pre-application review, request for feedback from the Historic Landmarks Commission on options for the new cow statue location. So if you would give your name for the record and then your presentation, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vadim Kotliar. I am the general manager of the LLC that owns the building.
Mm-hmm.
I have owned this building since 2017. And shall I give a history of the cow's demise?
Sure, that would be helpful.
Okay. So,
He's on.
Yeah.
yes, so as you know, there is a tradition among the students and young people in this community to paint the cow.
Mm-hmm.
It happens regularly. It happens regularly through the school at graduation, and then it happens, unfortunately, sporadically throughout the school year. Usually it coincides with football games. And, you know, if you ask around the city, I think many people have themselves climbed up there to paint the cow.
Mm-hmm.
At one.
I never did. I never did.
All right.
Full disclosure.
All right. Well, but maybe some people in attendance here today have done that. The cow was fairly old when we bought the building. I don't remember. I don't know. You know when it was. I know it was at some time taken off the building and put back on prior to my owning it. Essentially, what happened? We found one morning. I came and I found it, you know, lying, kind of broken on the roof. I found a bottle of empty bottle of vodka on the roof. I mean, it's.
The cow got drunk?
The cow, you know, somebody, we don't know. Of course, I did not have, unfortunately, the cameras on the roof. So I didn't see that. So but it, you know, it fell apart in many pieces. And I donated all of those pieces to the school. Mm-hmm. It was not possible to salvage it. You know, it's basically a frame that's metal, like rebar frame, and plaster over that. And what happened was, became apparent once the cow fell down that the rebars themselves were rusty. And so either somebody pushed it, I mean, or I was not, and obviously I don't know what happened. So, but I assume that somebody tried to paint it, maybe they tried to climb it and pushed it and it fell over. So the rebar inside was rusty and fell apart. So it was not possible to just put it back together. As I was, you know, this was during COVID. This happened during COVID. So the process of putting it back together, you know, kind of was taking some time. And then what happened was that my insurance, I mean, maybe some of you are familiar with this situation, my insurance dropped me. It had nothing to do with the cow. It was just their, they exited the markets after the 2018 mudslides. And they were not insuring any more commercial or residential buildings. Mm-hmm. And and I got a different, and I had to get different insurance. There's a mortgage, and so of course I'm obligated to have insurance. So then, after I remember I contacted a number of associations about how we should do this. There were several proposals about whether doing it should we do it in bronze? Should we just put the same plaster statue back on? So on and so forth. But then when I was going to, I think, already approach Nicole with the final plans of, let's say proposal, how we should do it, I ran it by my insurance agent, Gary Caesar, who himself was as he told me, was a graduate of the Santa Barbara High School, and himself was up there, once climbed and painted the cow as a youth. He checked with the insurance company, and the insurance company told him that if we were to put the cow back on, they were not prepared to, they would consider that the term escapes me, but let's say a great risk, that uncontemplated risk. And he looked around for alternatives for me to insure the building. And the only ones he could find would be this is not regular insurance. This is extra insurance that costs roughly, would add about $15,000 annually to the cost of insuring the building.
If the cow were there.
If the cow were returned on the roof.
Cow insurance.
Basically,
Mowing
it's
insurance.
cow insurance, yes, correct. So at which time I contacted the city and told them this, and they said, okay, submit the application to, to do something, to remove it completely, forever, to put it elsewhere, something like that. And so I apologize, life happened and it took several years, but here we are. The application has been filed, and we are here to consider the cow, which to be honest, I loved. I thought it was a great thing. I have a piece of it proudly in my house as a memory. So, but it is a complicated situation in that it became it's a tradition. I was surprised how often the cow was actually painted. Yeah. One thing or another. And then I'm not talking about the graduation time. That is expected. I'm just surprised. And so what I eventually did was, because there is a path that they take, the kids, that and that they kept breaking the roof tiles and that going up. So I cleared that path of tiles because I thought, well, it would be safer for them. They didn't have to. It's a safer surface. If it's just the underlayment instead of the tiles that they walk on and could slip and they keep breaking them. So that there's actually now a path, or there is a path, but of course they don't climb there anymore because there's no cow.
There's no cow.
So that's the struggle. I think that's the basic struggle. It's a great landmark. Kind of wonderful, but then there is the risk.
Let me ask a question. Is there a cow statue now? Right now, today, is there a cow statue now today?
On the building?
No.
Any place?
The pieces were donated to the Santa Barbara High School art department, and I think they were going to reassemble it.
So how do we justify the statement in the agenda here, proposal to relocate the iconic cow statue? There is no cow statue.
I think we ought to let the applicant complete his presentation first, and then we can go into questions.
So I was going to say that's the struggle. And with that in mind, my proposal was to create a duplicate. We have many photographs and of the cow in existence, and from which it's very possible to make an exact copy. And it can be placed ground level, and it's not very well marked, but here there's a very small area there where it can be placed. It's in red.
Is this on his laptop that
Yes.
you could move the mouse?
Correct,
so
through the
that
chair to the
cursor is
applicant,
over-
yes.
Yeah, you can point out
Here.
things that way. Okay, so that's where you're proposing?
Yes,
and
through the
this-
chair to the applicant, you can zoom in as well. It's a touchscreen, or you can use the Adobe functions, and then you have the photos on the second page.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
So this would be within the property line. This is where I'm proposing it. Between the entrance to the restaurant, Bossy's Kitchen, and the entrance to McConnell's office.
So is attractive nuisance the word you were looking for before?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
it came to me. Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, I was going to say that there are a couple of options for doing this. One option would be to have just a standalone cow standing on the ground in that location. The other option would be to create kind of a bas-relief with the exact replica would be essentially half a cow, and that the thinking that, let's say, if that can be done in metal, then it's easier to erase graffiti, because if you just put a cow at ground level, the concern is that it'll just be vandalized constantly. So I wanted to say that there would be two options I'm proposing for the board, for the commission. One is a standalone cow, which would be just a replica of the plaster replica, with exactly the same as it was. And the preferred option would be a bas-relief kind of on the wall.
Right.
With a plaque explaining the history and what was there.
Okay, well, if that concludes your presentation, we'll open it to public comment. Just to let you know, the procedure here is you give your presentation, and we get public comment, and then we get questions from the commission, and then comments, and so we can have some more back and forth discussion.
Of course.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. At this time, I do have one speaker slip for Rick Clausen. If you want to make your way up to the podium, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Do you want me to leave or stay here?
Stay there.
Thank you. This won't take 2 minutes, but it just seems like the commission's determination on this will rely heavily on what the original landmark document said, whether it was landmarking the entire building, specifically with the cow on top or not. And secondly, I think that it's been amply demonstrated at other times by the commission that many things are taken into consideration, but typically owner expense is not one of them. It is a dilemma. It is a sympathetic dilemma. It's not one that often is included in your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I don't have any further speaker slips. And I'm not seeing any movement, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. I do see one hand raised for Beverly Trial, so I'm going to go ahead and give you permission to speak, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to thank Mr. Kotliar for his very detailed presentation. Up until he spoke, I thought kind of like the idea of the Grinch who stole Christmas. I've been here since '83, and I've just loved that cow. But goodness, if it was on my building and I had to pay 15,000 or more, because quite often insurance companies will up their prices from year to year, that would definitely make me a lot less enthusiastic about having something like that on the top of my roof. So I have sympathy. I'm hoping that some kind of a good compromise can be determined. I hadn't thought about graffiti, but absolutely I can see that as a problem. And I'm just sorry that it has come to this, you might say, because I love seeing that cow. But I guess sometimes one just has to move on.
That was good. That was good.
Okay, does that conclude your comments? I guess so, thank you.
At this time, I don't see any further hands raised, but we did receive written correspondence from Pamela Bork, Paulina Kahn, and Betsy Kramer that was distributed to the commission prior to the hearing. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I will close public comment and move on to questions from the commission.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Okay.
Would you consider moving it to the corner in that outdoor dining space on an oval pedestal that's maybe 3 feet, 30 inches tall, and prominently displaying it on the corner? Because what I notice is, or I question that your proposed location's not very wide, and it wouldn't really look, seems like it's not wide enough.
Well, it's wide enough for the cow. It would, my good friend and sometimes associate Robert Pester, he is an architect, and he is also renting a space in the building, so he knows familiarly. He's familiar with this space. I would think it's wide enough to put a cow statue.
Especially with the relief between the pilasters.
Okay. Commissioner
Chair.
Ansberg.
You had pictures. Could you show us the pictures and show where you're talking about here? Where that would be, and then also where were you thinking of it being if it were bas relief? I'm assuming you mean on a wall?
It would be in that exact
same
location.
place,
Yeah,
but up on the
only
wall?
on this wall.
Oh, I see.
On this
Okay,
wall.
well, if we could see the pictures, that would be really
Yes.
helpful.
How do I?
Use the scroll wheel here.
Oh, yeah.
Would be one way you could do it. Or if you go up to the top bar where it says, yeah,
The page,
those up-down arrows.
Up, down,
Yeah.
arrows.
To the left, to the left, to the left.
Okay.
There you
There you
go.
Okay. So, oops.
If you hit Control 0, then you'll get the full page. There we go.
Okay, so,
And if you want to zoom in on a particular picture, just press the Z key and then draw a marquee around that picture.
Okay.
so this is the location right here.
and through the chair to the applicant, if you hit the H key, it'll go back to a hand, and you can kind of pan around and show the other pictures if you
Yeah, and if we could see that corner location where Commissioner McClure was asking about.
Or also, as I'm looking at the picture, there's that little, that canopy over the door. Might that be a place?
Yeah, so if we could get a better picture of the front of the corner. lease
Sorry.
space, tenant space.
I apologize, I'm so.
It's okay.
Hit Control 0 again, you'll go out.
Control 0, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then you can
Got it.
Z key and a marquee around.
Yes.
Maybe
So
that,
let's go this here.
Yeah.
Z. So you're talking about here?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
With modified landscape.
I think that's possible. I think it would have to be, I know there was some issue with the city about, not the, well, yes, the city traffic division about, they were very concerned about the height. I think I had to cut, after that photo, I had to cut a few of the, those bushes. They're concerned about the view from coming around.
Yeah.
or perhaps that, as I was suggesting, maybe that canopy over the door, that might be a nice spot if it
Oh,
could
this
fit
one.
there. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
right there. And then it would be elevated and it would be sort of more similar, visible. And a little bit more similar to how it once was, where you would be coming up Milpas and you would see it, which is what the big, was so great about it, that you could see it. So maybe that's a possibility if it's large enough, and if it is, I don't know how heavy the thing is, and if it could be supported in that way.
Depends on what they make it out of.
Yeah, if it was fiberglass.
Maybe scaled down on it.
Yeah.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Lenvick.
yeah, we're struggling trying to find a place to put a cow.
Mm-hmm.
And the building is designated a landmark because of its style, streamlined, modern. And I don't believe there's any reference to a cow being an integral part of that designation.
We will defer to our
Yeah, well,
architectural historian.
let me finish. And that doesn't make it good, bad, or indifferent if there's a cow on the building. But if you look at the building and what De Alfonso did with this style, it was a pretty good job. And yeah, the cow being on the roof, is that an important part of the architecture? I don't know that it is. Is a cow on top of a canopy? I don't know that it is. Is a cow statue on the ground appropriate? Maybe not attached to the building, so on and so forth. I think that'd be a good place for it. But are we going to take the architecture and abuse it by putting a statue back on it when that's not part of the original landmark designation?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Uli.
I feel somewhat that we've gotten ahead of ourselves in the discussion of the cow. It seems to me, using the interior standards, we have to determine whether the cow should be replaced or not replaced within the scope of the standards. There are recommendations when you're replacing windows and doors and all other elements, and this is just one more element. Even though I'm sure that when you look through the recommended standards by the National Park Service, you're not going to find a recommendation on the cow by itself, but it is an architectural feature. And contrary to Commissioner Lindvik, the building was designed with a cow. It has a prominent base provided for it, and it communicated what the purpose of the building was. And so it seems to me, for it to be compliant with the standards, the cow would have to be put back where it was designed to be. Being somewhere else, it is placing the cow, a replica of the cow, somewhere else. Is that following the standards or not? And in my opinion, I don't believe so. If we lose a feature, we lose a feature. I'm saddened. I love the cow, just like a dog on Garden Street. These are beloved features, but if we lost it, we lost it. If we can't put it back close to where it was designed, then it shouldn't be put back. I think that's part of the discussion we should be having.
Before we take any further questions, I would like to get some information from our architectural historian. Was the cow considered a character-defining feature, and was it part of the original design of the building or added later?
It was part of the, it was added when the original building was completed. And the designation does say it qualified under criterion I as the Dairy's unique, streamlined, modern building on Milpas and has been established and familiar feature to the community since 1939. The iconic house on the roof of the building represents an established and familiar feature of the city, and it receives annual painting by the local high school students. It even talks about that. But it is considered a character-defining feature, and I don't know if you can show this. There is a picture of it on the building in 1939 when it opened. This is the opening day of the building. And Commissioner Uli is correct. When you're replacing
There's a clock.
demolished features on a building, you're only supposed to replicate them if you have photographic evidence of what they were. the placement, this one is just hard because I don't think if it, I mean, if you can't insure the building, I don't know what to, that's a situation I haven't come across before because it's an unusual dilemma that we haven't.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Commissioner Jordan.
We keep calling it a cow. It's actually signage, and I think that's what I would look for under the National Register kind of thing. It was a signage part of the building, and therefore it, under national standards, either has to go back where it is or be marked loss. I think one of the interesting and problematic things for me in this discussion is the element of risk. And I'm very sympathetic to that for the owner, the risk there. And I take Mr. Clausen's comments about the cost of things, but the risk is not just about additional cost. There is a genuine risk. And just because nobody has fallen or suffered damage up until now,
That we know of.
doesn't mean that's a way forward. So I'm a little at a loss how we take into account risk, but I'm sure that the cow is signage and under national standards should be restored, if it is restored, to where it was originally, which we have ample documentation of.
Chair, I have a question following that, too. Is there, which I share that concern, how, can you maybe talk a little bit about how is it that the students or whoever it is gets up there?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Is it?
Yes, I can. So I have to put control zero. And, okay, just 1 second.
And I guess.
We probably want to be careful about advertising how to get on the building.
No, I don't think
well,
it's not a.
Maybe he doesn't have to share that with us, but I question
No,
that.
no, it's not a, here, this is not a big secret for the students.
Well, and it's. Yeah.
Well, three people
So
might be
the
watching on
question-
TV, so, you know.
So the question would be, is there a way to eliminate that ability to get up there so easily? Maybe that's part of a solution to get rid of that.
Well, so here's what happens. The normal path is up this thing here, like, and then up on this canopy, and then they walk here. This is where I took out the tiles, and then they climb up there and over. You know, in these matters, my experience was honestly that you make it more difficult, but it just makes it more dangerous. The kids will go up there, and it just makes it for them more, you know, like an extra challenge. Can they do it? I mean, yes, of course we can make it. You know, I think the point of risk is the key one. It is true that I bought this building with a cow on it, though the expenses associated with it are my expenses. These are the joy, and the extra insurance, these are the joys of property ownership. Okay, but the point of the risk is really important one, because if a tragedy takes place, we will know that the path to it started back here again, you know, because we had a choice of not putting it back on that. And if something were to happen, we would know that this is where it started, you know, unfortunately, you know. And so it's a big responsibility. And it's not up to me. If the city deems it, that it's willing to take that risk, I mean, and orders me to put the cow back on, I'll do it. I mean, I'm not going to, I don't have the resources to sue the city or anything like that. I will comply. But it's a responsibility.
Mr. Chair?
Well, I want to share something first. When I first got on the ABR, shortly thereafter, the ABR got sued by a developer because of a decision made about the train station. And that was before I was on, and the city said, we will pay for your defense, but if there's a judgment against you, you're liable for it. So
I'm going home then.
I don't think that's an issue here, but It just reminded me of that. Okay.
Yeah. No, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Early.
We base our work in the Secretary of Interior standards. That is our footing. And if we reach past that, then we're just making it up. The standards discourage altering a building to make something happen. So I will not be in support of altering the building so that the cow is less risky. I think our clear path is that unfortunately the cow has met its demise either by man or by having too much vodka. We don't know that, but the cow has met its demise.
Yeah.
That is unfortunate. I think the solution is not to replace it. Unless we can replace it where it was supposed to be as designed, then we say, we lost that one. I think interpretive signage can be put in the window or on the building or maybe in that panel where you were going to put the bas relief that discusses that there was a cow there, and unfortunately we lost the cow. I don't see any other solution. Putting it somewhere else on the property does not make any sense. There's no context for it, whether it's on the side of the building, in front of the building, it doesn't matter.
Don't you have an utter idea?
No, I do not. It's utterly frustrating.
I'm cows. Are we in comments or questions?
We are kind of all over the map, so I will go into comments. What would your comment?
Well, I would, based on everything in the legals and the liability, it seems like that tower could be slightly modified with a little low tile pyramid or something to make it look like there's something, like right now it looks like something's gone. But for all these legal reasons.
You mean in lieu of the cow, put
Yeah, a
something
little
else
bit of
there?
modification to make it an appropriate tower element seems likely.
We could put the clock back, I'm sorry to.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Okay, other comments? Commissioner Uli.
Following up on that, I would leave it alone. I would clean it up, leave it like something's missing, and the interpretive signage on the side of the building describes what was once there but lost, and it prompts the conversation. So what's missing? Then you get the story about what's missing. We shouldn't ask the owner of the building to modify the building to make up for the loss of a cow.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Butler.
I agree completely. I mean, it is a sign, it's there when the building was originally built, it's a city landmark, the cow is gone. In fact, the cow doesn't exist, right? There is no cow.
Yeah, it is.
It's in pieces, as I
It's
understand it.
over at the high school.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, I would resort back to preserving the building as a status, you're right, it's gone. So I think that's our role, is to try to maintain the integrity of the original design and the historicity of the building. And that would be my approach to the problem.
Commissioner Ansberg, you had a comment?
I appreciate the clarity that Commissioner Uli has brought, that our job is to look out for the historic aspect. And in my opinion, so we just kind of threw out some ideas that those are for you to consider. But I think I will take a slightly different opinion. I'll have a different opinion that I believe that the cow should be replaced as it was, to restore it to how it was originally.
Anybody else have any comments before I make some comments? Okay. It's very frustrating that our decision is being forced by an insurance company that wants to charge an exorbitant amount. I've encountered situations like that before, so, it's the reality, and I don't think we can make a property owner do something that causes him to incur more liability exposure. And it is an attractive nuisance. As long as the cow is up there, this will continue to happen, regardless of what modifications he does to the building. I think that any conjectural solution, like putting it on top of the canopy, it's not historical anymore, and it's kind of a change to the landmark building. also adding anything to the top of the existing tower is conjectural, because that was not original. I think the bas relief idea is maybe the best option we have in front of us, something on that wall with a plaque that explains, not deep relief, not like half a cow, but, something that's only 4 inches deep or something like that. But, it kind of acknowledges the cow was there and could get into why it's no longer there. But anyway, that's something we could review if the applicant cares to return with something like that.
Definitely.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I agree with that, because I think that's consistent with comments we've made on other projects. One in the funk zone about the history of motorcycles comes to mind, where elements are placed, of course, on a new building, but elements are placed to echo that history. So I think that would be an appropriate use of that blank wall to be an interpretive place to tell the story of why there is no longer a cow.
Mr. Chair? I would support that.
I was also kind of wondering whether or not the city could be approached, but I'm sure risk management would say, no, we're not helping out on this. So I just don't see any solution.
Apologies, I missed the first part of what you said. Is this a question for staff?
I don't think it's a question you can answer. I was just thinking, is there a role for the city to play in getting the cow back up there? But it's a risk for them, and probably not one they're going to want to accept. So,
I mean, I would only be familiar with the Historic Landmarks Commission role in the permitting process, and if the commission does, as as it's been established, if you decide that you want the cow restored to its original location, the applicant will have to comply. I don't know if there will be other hurdles for the applicant later down the line through other departments, like through building and safety or risk management. But ultimately, the HLC has the decision on the placement of the cow or the restoration.
well, this is a one-time pre-application review, so we're not taking any motion. But I would say our comments could be that we are saddened by the loss of the cow and the ramifications, insurance ramifications to the property owner should he replace the cow. So we can accept that the cow will not be replaced, but suggest that in lieu of that, a bas relief with a explanatory plaque be installed on the Canon Perdido elevation of the building. But also encourage the applicant to talk with somebody at the city to find out if there's any possibility that the city could play a role in helping restore the cow to its landmark position.
And just so would I go through the historical commission, or I go to the city directly?
I think you can have discussions with Nicole and just kind of figure out the process.
Yeah.
Would come to you for approval. So when you have your plaque outlined, we can bring it here.
The plaque I'm clear about.
Okay, so that would be.
I was just asking about the second part.
Talking to the city about playing a role in this.
And putting the cow back.
Yeah.
Right?
So I talked to Ms. Rydell, and you can discuss who to talk to. That might be able to advise you on that.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, we've got two suggestions. Replace the cow where it belongs with a replica. And if that choice is not taken, then provide interpretive material somewhere on the building, bas relief and text that describes what it used to be.
Correct.
Yes, Chair. Chair House, yes, thank you. I think that is what we are talking, and this is a discussion we're having, and it gives him more information to move forward with and perhaps speak with his insurance and see what they have to say about it as you work through. But I appreciate leaving that open as those two options.
Yeah. And the juvenile bovine on the Jeff Shelton building comes to mind, but I suspect that's not easy to get up to.
It's not easy to get out to, and it doesn't have, I mean, I've never once seen it painted, it doesn't have that attraction, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
Vice Chair House.
It wasn't happy,
calf, now it's a lonely calf.
I know.
Well, and I had a thought, you know, if it's some kind of a fiberglass or plaster relief, that could be very vandal inducing. But what if it was just a wrought iron stylized relief that just pins to the building?
But I was actually thinking bronze because it's easier to clean. So I
You
was
mean
think-
for the bas relief or for?
for the bas relief.
Oh, okay.
Well, he's coming back.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so whatever you care to propose when you come back, we'll evaluate that. and-
Unless it's determined to be signage, and then we won't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you very much for
Thank you
coming.
very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item, 330, we're just perfectly on time. Okay, we're moving on to item 6. This is 1501 Franceschi Road. Designated a structure of merit, the Franceschi residence, Montarioso, was constructed in 1905. Franceschi Park itself is also historically significant. Proposal to demolish the Franceschi house and replace it with an interpretive garden terrace. See, here we're doing the same thing, a garden terrace interpretive in lieu of the house. In its footprint per city council recommendation. Project includes salvage of commemorative features, construction of a new accessible parking lot, retaining walls, accessible pathways, and interpretive signage and landscaping, replacement of the circular plaza west of the house, and improvements to the existing view perch. The project will safely restore public access to the park, increase its sustainability and resiliency, and provide historical value to the community by commemorating the site's historical significance. This is a one-time pre-application review. No final appealable decision will take place at this hearing, and project compatibility findings and demolition findings will be required for project design approval. So, whoa, we've got a few applicants here. So if you could give your names for the record, please, and then the presentation.
Sean Stewart, project planner.
Okay.
Kevin Dumaine, I'm project architect with Design Arc Architect.
The green light has to come on. Yeah, there you go.
Kevin Dumaine, project architect with Design Arc.
Okay.
Sarah Corder, architectural historian. Hello, everyone.
Scott Capps, landscape architect on the project.
Great, thank you.
All right, so I'll go ahead and get us started. I did want to request a few extra minutes for our presentation, if possible.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of background and history on this site that I think would be helpful to cover. So I also did want to address the site visit. It was unfortunate we weren't able to do that. But as you mentioned, this is just our pre-application review. So once we come back for our formal
Interject something. How many people did visit the site?
Not today, but I've
Yeah.
been there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, great to hear. Yeah, so hopefully folks did see how far gone the house is, site work that's falling down the hillside, the absence of drainage that's contributing to the erosion up there, no ADA access on the site, as well as almost no Franceschi era plantings remaining. But hopefully also saw the uniqueness of the site, its public value to have a park in this location. In such a location overlooking Santa Barbara, and what it could be like if we revitalize this space. So the purpose of this project is to restore public access that is ADA compliant to the portion of the park that contains the Franceschi house and surrounding area in a way that's safe, sustainable, increases the resiliency of the park, and honors the history of the site by providing an interpretive experience for park users. There's a lot of history to get through here, so I'll be covering a brief history on the house and park, past restoration and fundraising efforts, City Council's recommendation to pursue this project, public outreach done this far, and then the architecture team will get into the project. Our goal today is to receive positive comments so we can continue forward with design development, and we wanted to come before your commission early in the process to start an effective collaboration given your purview on the project. So Francesco Franceschi immigrated from Italy and is an important historical figure given his pioneering work as a horticulturalist that introduced hundreds of plants to California in the early 20th century, just when the state began to rapidly grow. He had been in Santa Barbara for about 10 years before purchasing 40 acres on the Riviera in 1903. And before that, he had previously operated a nursery in the downtown area. In 1905, he constructed his two-story craftsman home on the site and continued to develop the area surrounding the house as his plant nursery and garden. Franceschi's vision for the site was never fully accomplished, and he left the States in 1913 for new and better business prospects. His children remained living there after his departure, selling off portions of the 40 acres over the years until 1926, when the house and remaining 2 acres were sold to Alden Freeman. Freeman was a wealthy philanthropist and social reformer who quickly began modifying the house and surrounding area to function as a civic space and changed the home's architecture style to mirror that of Franceschi's ancestral home in Italy. Freeman first offered the property to the city in 1927, but the offer was declined by the city given their concerns for maintenance costs. And then the city ultimately accepted the property in 1931 after lobbying by the Mission Ridge Association, who pledged 2 years of maintenance funds at the time. So on the left here, you see Franceschi's two-story craftsman. And then on the right, the house and site after Freeman's alterations. And notably, the home's period of significance is tied to Freeman, not Franceschi, given the extensive alterations he made. So the Franceschi house saw various occupants as uses over the years that were associated with the city and other horticulture interests. Over this time, its condition steadily declined due to a lack of maintenance. The structure was actually first condemned by the building department in 1963. Its demolition was approved thereafter with the creation of the park's first master plan that was approved by the city council in '71. But note that the razing of the house caught the attention of Pearl Chase, who opposed the action and formed the Franceschi Mansion Restoration Committee, which ultimately led to its structure of merit designation in '81. In 1982, the Horticultural Society entered into a 25-year lease on the property with the city, and together there was a plan to restore the house. In 1985, the city was awarded a $170,000 grant from the State Office of Historic Preservation for the structural stabilization of the house, but the work was ultimately found to be more costly, and due to the funding shortfall, the work was abandoned. In 1998, new master planning efforts for the park emerged, and again, the question of what to do with the house was at the forefront of discussion. In another attempt to keep the house, the city solicited requests for proposals from nonprofits and other community organizations who could both undertake the restoration as well as the future operation of the house. 6 proposals were received, and unfortunately, they were all deemed inviable. So as a result, the house was to be demolished again when enter Pearl Chase Society. And with a little time, they put together a plan for the restoration of the house, as well as a maintenance endowment that turned into a formal grant agreement between the city and the Pearl Chase Society that was approved by council in 2001. However, by 2010, it was clear the project was not viable due to a lack of funds. And the Pearl Chase Society concluded its efforts. So at that junction in the project, City Council again became involved. They formally terminated the grant agreement with Pearl Chase Society in 2015. And at that time, Council requested additional information from the Parks and Recreation Department before directing them to pursue demolition and replacement of the house with an interpretive project. So in 2018, the department returned to council with 3 thoroughly researched options, which included full restoration of the house. The second one was exterior restoration and mothballing. And then the third one was the demo of the house and replacement with an interpretive project. Council's vote came back unanimous in support of the interpretive project, which was also supported by the Pearl Chase Society and the Riviera Association. So following that clear direction from council and after paused due to the pandemic. The department began efforts on this project last year, and in February and May of this year, we held 2 community outreach meetings and online surveys to generate a project that reflects the wants and needs of the community. The meetings were well attended, and we had almost 1,300 responses to the online surveys. We took the feedback received and put together 4 concept designs, and then those concept designs were ranked to get the preferred concept. So the takeaways that we learned were that people know about Franceschi's horticultural legacy, and that's the single biggest factor that they want to see the site remembered and reinterpreted. The site's views are why 99% of the people visit the site. And when it comes to interpretive elements, those should be landscaping to display the site's horticultural history. Unique elements of the house, such as the medallions, should be salvaged and incorporated into the design. And signage is the preferred medium by park users to tell the site's story, nothing digital or overly complex. And the preferred design also had the simplest architecture and was landscape forward. We also learned folks liked the quiet, contemplative, and whimsical feel of the park and didn't want to see that wiped away. So with all that being covered, we're now ready to get into the design and hopeful that this early review will set us on a positive trajectory moving forward as we transition into the formal application phase. I'll now turn it over to Kevin.
All right, so let's just start with an aerial overview of the park here. We've got the house front and center. Off to the upper left, you have the parking area. And so our area that we're going to be talking about today is really focused around the house, the lower parking area here and out to this view perch. On this drawing here, we can see the area highlighted in blue is kind of the scope of the project that we're embarked on.
Let me interrupt for a second. Can everybody hear okay? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Let's aim that a little more.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, so the larger park here is in green, and then the area in the center, the blue, that's the area that we're specifically going to be working on. And the idea is to keep the scope of this fairly limited so that we can ultimately arrive at a design that can be executed and built without sort of incurring, quite a bit of extra accessibility and stormwater expenses. Really focus on the heart of the park. Parks and Rec will be doing other work over time as they get grants and funding to improve access and pathways throughout other portions of the park. So that's really a separate element and not part of this discussion. Can we zoom in a little bit closer here? And then we'll hit some of the key areas. So the lower driveway will become an access point for staff and also for accessibility. So this little parking area is going to be created that's going to meet the access parking requirements. And then throughout the blue zone, we're going to have accessible paths of travel for the visitors to the park. In the center here, this is what we refer to that as the terrace. It's where the house currently sits. To the west of that, we have what we refer to as the circular plaza. And then out here, we have the view perch.
And so as we began to examine the landscape portion of this project, our efforts really began by researching the history of the park and particularly Dr. Franceschi. As Sean noted, Franceschi was an internationally respected horticulturalist, and during his 20 years of living in Santa Barbara is credited with introducing a vast number of plants to Santa Barbara and the surrounding nursery trade. So what we're seeing on the screen are some of the previous research and design efforts that we have examined as the design team. Notably on the left, this is a 1963 park plan, which points out all of the important flora that existed at the time. And on the right is a book titled Pioneer Plantsman, focus on Franceschi and the wide range of plants he had introduced. Both of these were prepared by Will Beidel, a former city arborist and plant enthusiast. And through these research efforts, such as looking at past planting maps, books, historical articles, we were really able to attribute the specific plant introductions to Franceschi, as well as ascertain which of these Franceschi introduced species still exist within the park today. Next slide, Kevin. So zooming in, what we're seeing here is a plan showing existing conditions of the site. So you see the house there in the middle. While the majority of Franceschi's original plantings do not remain, there are existing trees which we can almost certainly attribute to Franceschi as planting, shown in both the plan and photos. We have the large western fig just west of the circular plaza with the number 1 there. Number 2 and 3 are grass.
You could mouse over it so we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the large Watkins fig there, number 1, and shown in the bottom right image. We have the grass tree and eucalyptus just to the west of the house, images 2 and 3. And then we have a date palm just north of our site, number 4. And I should note with the date palm that this is thought to have been attributed to Franceschi, but potentially not. But it is in line with his historic palm section that he did plant within the park grounds. So we would very much want to see this palm saved and retained. So all of these Franceschi planted trees will remain and serve as key inspiration for new plantings. Later in the presentation, I'll talk further about proposed plantings, but want to be clear that the design team will continue to solidify and confirm our findings through ongoing research and interviewing of knowledgeable sources.
Okay, while we're still here, let's kind of point out a few other features. So the house is essentially sort of the heart of the park. It's the focal point. And so in our designs that we've come up with, we've sort of retained that aspect of the revised design. You know, the plaza over here currently has stone or concrete pavers that are apparently came from the 1925 earthquake, and they brought up here to pave the surface, but they don't create a surface that will be accessible. So some of these changes have to occur for functional reasons. Uh-oh. How do we scroll?
You can use the scroll wheel on the mouse.
Or touch the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a touch screen.
All right.
And click outside that picture so you get rid of that blue. Yeah. There we go.
So here we have 2 recent photos of the house, you know, from the southeast and from the southwest. It's a pretty dilapidated condition, but you can also begin to see quite a few of the medallions and other artifacts that Freeman, you know, the second owner, put on the project. And we also wanted to show you some past images. Another image from 1905. And then these axonometrics, these are from the report that Howard Wittosh had done. You can see how the original house looked. And then in the 1907, when Franceschi, the Fenzi family, their sons moved in, they expanded the house. It's still an arts and crafts inspired home. And then ultimately how it transformed in 1927 by Freeman. Okay.
Control 0, and that'll give you full screen again.
All right. Now we're going to look at the terrace and the parking area. So over in the parking zone, we're going to provide some accessible parking, create an accessible path of travel. In one direction, we'll go up some ramps and then connect in with the existing pathways. And so like this would be an existing stair. These are the existing stairs up here. But we're going to have this accessible path that follows along this existing path up to the upper terrace, and then we also have a ramp down over to the driveway here, and then we'll have an accessible path over to the plaza. So that's all kind of baked into the fundamental layout. And then over here where we formerly had the house, which is represented with these dashed lines, the goal is to create this new terrace, which is a Sean had mentioned that there have been 4 designs in the public design process. And in the option 1, which was sort of the most well-received, is kind of the most similar to this scheme, where we have a series of these retaining walls that terrace on up to a garden terrace. And then there's other elements of this that we've taken from schemes 3 and 4 and integrate them into sort of one consolidated design. You expand, you're reducing the plaza terrace paving and increasing the amount of landscape area up here, and then also integrating some signage elements. So let's kind of show you some of the features that we are envisioning keeping. To the west and the north, the idea is that we would keep the foundation stem walls. Those would be there. They give you a sense of where the current house is. To the north, there's the remnants of the arched bridge when it went to the upper level. We decided we would keep those. They're really fun. Everybody enjoys them. They add a little quirkiness and a mystical or mystery character to the site. And then as design has continued to evolve, we're looking for ways that we can improve on the commemorative aspects and features and tell a little more of the historical story of the site. So this would be a new sort of monument piece where the Fenzi and Ferenzi signs that flank the existing entrance to the house, there would be a home to put those. Out here at the edge of the paved terrace, where you have the best view of all, those would become 2 side-by-side signs. And here's a proposal, initial concept for that our exhibit designers come up with. One would honor Franceschi, the other would honor Freeman. And we put those in a place of honor. Down on this face of that wall, we'll get to the elevation in a minute, would be another sign that's a big bronze plaque that's currently on the house. So before we move to the elevations, the upper wall and the lower wall, those would be more simple Italian stone retaining walls. And then the middle one would have a sandstone cap, but it's a plaster wall, and it becomes a place to mount the medallions. Let's go. Oops. Let's do this section. So in section, you can see how this becomes just a fairly simple terrace, park terrace. We have the grid of trees. The terrace level would be approximately the level of the primary floor of the house. And it's all about the orientation to the view. Here's that middle wall, which is the vertical plaster covered wall, which is, we go to the next one. Now, as we look at the south elevation, you can see that becomes a place that we can, recover the medallions from the current house, place them on this new wall, wrap them around the corners, and also have some other plaques to sort of describe what their role is. I think Rick's in the audience. He's going to be speaking on them later this month. This is the bronze plaque from the house. That would be the location we'd propose for that. Let's go to the next. And the west elevation. But really the emphasis that you have this terrace, a place to honor Franceschi's contributions to horticulture, and it's also a great place to go and appreciate the view.
And so as we begin to look at the proposed planting, really our overall goal here is to capture the spirit of Franceschi's historical gardens and nursery legacy while also accounting for the modern realities of water use, fire hazards, and long-term maintenance. With that in mind, we are proposing to keep the original Franceschi planted trees I noted earlier and add in new trees to the east of the house. Those are the lighter symbols shown with number 6. The goal here is to help screen the new parking and orient out towards those incredible views that Kevin has mentioned. New trees, shrubs, and ground covers will be a mix of regionally appropriate Franceschi-introduced plants as well as California natives in order to meet the modern goals of the park. So zooming in really to the terrace plan, we've really begun to think of the proposed planting in terms of 2 zones. That darker green zone is really becoming the place to honor Franceschi. So we're calling this the Franceschi-inspired terrace. Plantings here would focus on Franceschi-introduced plants, now prevalent within the Santa Barbara landscape, but while also making sure to avoid plants now known to be invasive in our local plant communities. Zone 2 is the lighter green. It's kind of reading as gray here on the screen. That would be the kind of the backdrop planting. And the goal here is to really provide a layered low water use, low maintenance backdrop to the terrace and serve more as a transition to the rest of the park. Next slide, Kevin. And so now what we're seeing here are the existing plantings, again on the left, paired with preliminary plant lists, which begin to suggest plants appropriate for our project. If you guys are noticing the stars here next to the plant images, so the green stars next to the plant indicates plants thought to have been introduced by Franceschi, while the gray star indicates a California native. So again, we're really trying to honor Franceschi through our proposed plantings with this balance of Franceschi introduced plants as well as using California natives. So the top row shows possible trees suitable for the terrace, such as the Santa Cruz ironwood or the golden shower tree, both attributed to Franceschi. And the bottom rows start to show proposed mix of shrubs and ground covers, offering a thoughtful variety of texture, color, and interest in order to capture the whimsical nature of the original plantings. As mentioned earlier, really the goal here is to capture the spirit of Franceschi while also being cognizant of our kind of modern day needs of maintenance, water use, and fire hazards. And ultimately, as we continue to work on this project, our final plant selections will be guided by continued research and project feedback obtained in reviews such as today.
Okay, now we'll speed up and show you the other components. So to the west of the house, we have the plaza. It's in pretty rough shape, and so we need to replace this terrace. And then we also have the existing view perch. And so then on this image, there's some of the precedents we've had in mind. The first one is a terrace outside of Louisville at a Olmsted Park. This image is sort of stuck with us all through the public review process, and it's kind of our goal here for the circular plaza. And then the one to the right is from overseas, and this is for the view perch. It's kind of a way to, take this destination point and then introduce a very durable, simple view scope that also gives you points on the table to what you see, so it can educate people as they look around. And then here we have the plan. The plaza would be fairly simple, but it would have the stone wall, low stone seating height wall to the south, a secondary wall to step up that hill so that we don't have to have a guardrail level fence. And then what we want to do is, within that field of the existing paving, there are some samples out there that have lettering on them that really attract a little more attention. We want to retain those, and we want to put them back in approximately the same spot amidst the field of the permeable paving that we'll need to do. And then in the center, the original design had a fountain. So the idea would be to sort of take that original size of that circle and put in a compass rose. And here's a little perspective sketch of what we have in mind. And then the view perch, it has one existing stone seating wall. Our idea is to just make a simple seat height wall on the other side to complete the circle. And that would be our design for that.
Yep. So this is just showing proposed plantings around the plaza and that view perch. Similar approach as we were going with the terrace. So around these portions would be mainly that layer backdrop planting that would transition out to the rest of the park.
All right, and then our closing image is the perspective sketch of the terrace. And so as we've mentioned before, we envision this as the heart of the park. This is the contemplative place you can arrive at, appreciate the view, and then while you're there, you have the opportunity to read the dedication signs. We could have some additional informative signage into the plaza surface, and then the plantings that you're to your right and left, that reminiscent, evoke the contributions of Franceschi. And maybe one other thing to add here is, it's been a very different process, with the public forums, but it's actually been very positive in that it's led to, it's informed the project, it's given us ideas that have helped us to edit and simplify the project. And so that's really contributed to kind of a simpler, more refined design that we're presenting to you here today, and hopefully it's one that we can get approved and funded and actually and make a transformation of this place.
Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Then we'll open to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. At this time, I do have 2 speaker slips, so we'll go ahead and start with Rick Clausen. If you want to make your way up to the podium, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. I don't really have any good comments. I came to look and to listen and to learn, and I thank the presenters for the information. But being drawn by the magnetism of an open mic, I can't pass up the opportunity to alert the public in attendance, as well as anyone in the viewing public, that coincidentally and long ago planned for 2 weeks from, approximately 2 weeks from today, 30th of this month, at the Alacama Theater at 5:30, the Pearl Chase Society will sponsor the next event in its Column to Forest speaker series, and the topic will be on the art, primarily the medallions, but also other artwork associated with Franceschi House. And I have reminder cards that I'll leave over on the side for people here who need that sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll have Douglas Reed. If you want to make your way up to the podium, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
I'll be reading, not speaking. I hope. I'm late to the party. I regret missing a workshop a few months ago and then fell entirely out of the loop.
Excuse me, sir. Could you point the microphone down towards you? Thanks.
I'm new at this. I'm late to the party. I regret missing a workshop a few months ago, then fell entirely out of the loop until yesterday. This qualifies me to be critical and presumptive for 2 minutes or until a shout down. The Italians are chronically first in all things cultural, setting the archetypal pattern for the civilization and the Renaissance that informed our Spanish colonial architecture. This archetypal pattern is encoded in the pre-1927 Franceschi residence that commanded its craggy Riviera promontory with bold symmetry of forms in Arcadian California dress. For its ensuing redressing and obfuscation by its subsequent owner, Freeman, I defer to the architect of Ojai's Spanish downtown, Richard Wakwa, who evangelized against the plaster transgressions of amateurs. I quote, "Aggrandized cracker boxes, fused and furbellowed with wreaths and whirligigs, and stucco. Oh, what haven't they stuck in the stucco? Scattered promiscuously about. Inevitably, the maligned edifice should implode gently and be given an honorable resting place. Seating, if you will, a memorial appropriate to historic legacy. A nest, perhaps, not for crows, but for visitors to survey the panoramic vantage Franceschi enjoyed upon his fecund lands of exotic immigrant propagation and scenic amalgamation that is Santa Barbara. For the formidable void left from that building's 120-year presence, I suggest a material construct, planar oxidized steel mesh, ghosting the volumetric archetypal essence of the defining upper portions of the building with ethereal drapings of lush flora dappled in light, with vertical access for visitors to mid and upper level decks. At epicenter, visitors might encounter promiscuous arrays of plaster medallions, radial, spiral, concentric, and helical, plant-like, with academic documentation for inquisitive visitors. While we must serve the curious, the Freeman era is tertiary, not germane, to the poetic, meditative plant world of the horticultural pioneer. No cliches of the contemporary memorial age. No empty what is it spaces. No corny pole structures, cutesy portals, and gimmicky framing outlines. No in situ medallions memorializing desecration. Lastly, importantly, no mocking my proposal.
Thank you very
you.
much.
Up next, we have Claudia Show. If you want to make your way up to the podium, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
That's a hard act to follow. My name is Claudia Scow, and I serve on the board of directors for the Pearl Chase Society, but I'm not here to speak on behalf of the board today. I'm here to speak on behalf of myself, who moved here 6 years ago from Long Beach, California, where I volunteered for 12 years on fundraising and park maintenance for historic Bixby Park. And during that time, we worked very closely with the city on renovations and improvements. We partnered with the supervisor, Don Knabe, on funding for our projects. And I just wanted to take a moment to let you know how grateful I am living in this new city, 6 years now, to the Department of Parks, Rec, and Marine, or actually that was Long Beach and Marine, but the Department of Parks and Rec here in Santa Barbara, working with the community and asking for its input with workshops and online surveys. Thank you also for your transparency. All the documents are there on the website for anyone to go and look up for themselves. So a big thanks, but really I'm so excited to see the city's continued progress in giving new life to the Franceschi legacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I don't have any further speaker slips.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can go ahead and speak and then just fill out a speaker slip at the back of the room when you're finished.
I'm very sorry also for my English because it's very basic. So I married a Santa Barbarian girl many years ago. So we lived more in Italy than here. That's why I came only today. Probably it's too late. For me, it's very, very sad to see, to talk about the demolition of that beautiful villa mentioned, because I don't understand really if there is a really technical problems. Okay, I cannot say anything. But if it's not, I was there many times. I'm a kind of botanist. I was growing in a house built in the same time of that house in Italy, and from my ancestors. And I have very, very many points, many connection with that Franceschi fancy. Also the sentences I saw in the garden of the Auton Timorumenus is my favorite sentences from when I was child. So that I'm a man, anything about human things is not, it cannot interest me. So I want to say, I just want to know if it's not possible. I appreciate this project is beautiful. I read in internet, but I don't understand if it's possible to move a little bit on the terrace on the other space and try to save the house. I can help. I save a lot of homes in Italy. I restore 2 or 3 important old homes, also very ancient. Some of them, they were built in 13th century, and a part of another we restore. In the bottom part is an arch and cave of Roman Empire, 1st century after Christ, and it's still there. So I want to say you have not many, this is a beautiful town, but you have not many ancient buildings. So that's why I'm Italian, not American. You are more modern, you are progressive. No, we are more conservative. So I don't understand why you need to demolish that beautiful homes and not restore. And I repeat, for me, restoring a house like that, for my experience, is not difficult because we have stone buildings and they are very hard to restore and very expensive, not like wooden houses. So I don't want to, I respect all this work. It's very, very good job they made. So Just I want to say, ask something. If it's possible to save this goat because it's a very beautiful home and it should be a museum, is a good point of history of Santa Barbara. Thank you. So.
Grazie.
All right.
Do we
I don't
have
have
any,
any.
more?
I don't have any further speaker slips. And I'm not seeing any movement, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. I do see one hand raised for Beverly Trial, so I'll go ahead and give you permission to speak, and you'll just have to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. I'm very happy with the quirkiness of of what's going to be left, added to the site. I think quirkiness is a wonderful thing, and I have to agree with the speaker in front of me. It would be wonderful to be able to redo the house, but it just seems like an extremely expensive proposition. And I guess I'm a member of the Riviera Association, so we have been going to the meetings at the Franceschi House, and they've been very well organized, which I really appreciate very much. And it's a lovely site to go and look at the view. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm not seeing any further hands raised online, but we did receive written correspondence from Jim and Kathy Bibocas, Shelley Booksman, James Everote, and Susan Chamberlain that were distributed to the commission prior to the hearing. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you, and I will close public comment and open it to questions from the commission.
I'll jump in there, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Uli.
General comment, great presentation. I liked the slow, methodical delivery of the information.
Even though you're over 15 minutes.
Because there's a lot of it, so
Yeah.
Don't do that again.
appreciate that. As a way of asking the question, I also like whimsy. Had you considered the upper plaza taking the actual footprint of the building with concrete walls rather than stone walls and random?
Yes, in the four schemes that have been previously mentioned, 2, 3, and 4 kind of followed along the lines where we would trace the outline, but build new support walls that would support the terrace. And those schemes ultimately became a little more architectural and a little heavier and harder, and so we didn't get very good feedback on those. What was nice about option 4, though, was that it supported a larger garden terrace. So where possible, we've incorporated those features. And then this scheme is a little bit of a hybrid in that we introduced the intermediate wall that became the place we could remount medallions. And so there's a little bit of that. But yes, we did have more. We actually started even with schemes that we never presented to the public that were more architectural with a capital A. And they really started to take on a different direction that wasn't kind of honoring the intent that was, as the project worked along, it really became more important to say, how can we honor both Freeman and Franceschi? And this sort of schemes where you abstracted the structure and got a little more architectural, it became kind of a third animal. It was just an awkward sort of fit. And so we backed away from that and went towards a more simple emphasis on the garden.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner McClure.
I have a question. What are the dimensions of that main patio?
What we're looking at in that illustration right now, yeah.
It's changed a few times, but I think it's about 18 feet wide.
To wiggle your mouse. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Uli.
I had another one.
Yep. But only one more.
Yeah, because I answered the third one already.
Okay.
Well, I didn't. It was answered. On the abutments for the bridge that was to the upper floor from higher grade. Had you contemplated leaving the bridge or leaving the cross element to the abutments?
The bridge element is actually long since fallen down. So you just have a piece at the north and south sides, partial arches. And on the north side, it's actually leaning quite a bit from the, I think the soils just didn't support the weight of it.
I wondered how those two actually connected.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Latnick, you have a question?
Go ahead, you go ahead.
Okay. Could you put the overall site plan up, please? The overall site plan for the entire park. Okay, there. So I see three parking spaces in the newly developed area, and there are probably a dozen parking spaces in the upper area existing. How are we connecting where the majority of the people are going to be coming to and parking their car with this new developed area?
You're not referring to accessible access, are you?
Well, I'm referring to any kind of access. You go up there and walk right now from the parking area down to the house, and you, to a degree, take your life in your hands if you've been there. And what I don't see here is a connection for users to this area which we are investing a lot of money in as part of getting rid of the existing home. And I would think my question would be, why have you ignored the entire site in the development of your plan?
Or the associated question, are you rehabilitating the existing walkways and steps?
Well, the first part is you will access it off of the current paths. It's outside of our project scope, but what the Parks and Rec will do is pursue grant funding to do maintenance work on those other paths. If we put it into our project scope, then the area of work grows, we become like a tier 4 stormwater, and it just, it incrementally gets much more challenging.
The stormwater.
And we have some comment from Ms. Zachary.
Members of the Historic Landmarks Commission, Jill Zachary, I'm the Director of the Parks and Recreation Department. We do know we need to address the pathways from the upper parking lot. Our focus before the commission today is really around the house and getting your feedback on that, since that's a key element of us being able to move forward with this project. So we will be doing more work related to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner McClure.
Yeah, one more question. So is this considered a commercial project? Because I was just thinking about the commercial projects, 100% drought tolerant plants, but this is special, isn't it, or different? So you can have higher water use plants on this project?
That is a great question, which I'll need to clarify. Again, we keep going back to this idea of balance between the historical Franceschi plantings and kind of just being water-wise today and being responsible. That's why we're proposing the balance of more regionally appropriate drought-tolerant planting in balance with his plants that he introduced.
Yeah, I would hope that you would be allowed to plant higher water using things.
Yeah.
Not tropical, but. Commissioner Ensberg, you have a
Yes,
question.
thank you. Just a question about the, what?
He's actually been.
Oh, I'm sorry. You go.
Don't forget my question, go ahead.
Obviously, it's not important.
I'm sorry.
Well, this is plebeian, perhaps.
Commissioner Drury.
Thank you. What's going to happen to the caretaker house? Which I know it's outside the scope, but will it remain intact, viable residence?
We're not proposing any changes to that.
Okay. And the terrace that Commissioner McClure talked about is 18 feet wide, and how deep? Is it the footprint of the house? Is that my understanding?
It's only
Only part of the house. But it's oriented north and south, correct?
Correct. The footprint of the current house goes all the way to the bottom edge of the drawing where the lowest wall is. There's a little dash line there.
Okay.
And so the terrace is roughly about 2/3 the depth of the current
And there'll
house.
still be that curved terrace off to its left, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Those existing stone walls remain. There's an existing stair that remains over there. The statue remains.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Now, can I ask this question?
Commissioner Ansberg,
Thank
your
you.
turn.
Thank you, Chair House. I just was curious about the existing view perch. You had a picture of that, the concrete element that is the existing, and I was wondering, is that, there it is on the right there, is that being used, or is that going to be demolished?
No, we're going to keep that, and we're going to sort of add to it.
Okay,
In the upper left, there's a sketch of how that would be.
okay. So this top part of the curve is the existing, and then the lower part is the new?
That's correct.
Okay, thank
My
you.
question about that, is that an issue of being more than 30 inches above grade, such that you'll need a 42-inch guardrail, or you've got a plan for that?
We will do everything we can to keep those drops less than 30 inches.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, Mr.
Commissioner
Vice Chair.
Jordan.
Thank you for the presentation. It was very clear and helpful. A couple of questions. When you drive onto that site now, there's a small building painted white just opposite, uphill of the house. What is that?
So that building's currently used by maintenance staff for storage of tools and.
What was it originally? Did we have any, just an auxiliary building? Okay. Why no bathroom?
So we have a existing restroom on site currently. And we're not proposing a new restroom currently because of the constraints of the site.
That existing bathroom, it's ADA issues come to mind with getting to that. And would that be addressed? Or is it just beyond the scope of this particular project?
No, so any changes to the existing restroom would be beyond the scope of
this project.
current project, yeah.
That's my questions. I have comments, but my question.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner
Okay,
McClure.
I'll go ahead and comment. I believe that the patio could be bigger. And then on the natives, I would encourage you to use the tougher of the natives, the longer lived things if you do use them. And then I think the compass rose could be more interesting and more Santa Barbara-ish and larger. Those are my comments.
Okay, who would like to go next?
I will.
Commissioner Lenvick.
Yes, I personally have no problem with the house going away, but I have a major problem with this plan, which ignores how even I would get to this site, to this area. I drive to the upper parking lot, I park, I get out, I sit at the park tables, I look over the scenery, sit at the bench, but there is no reasonable way to get between where I would be and where the house was that we were getting rid of. And we're getting rid of a house, which I have no problem with, but we're investing an awful lot of money in creating big patios, step patios, observing patios, or whatever they are. And I just can't accept the fact that we're ignoring all of Franceschi Park as part of the removal of the house. Doesn't fly with me at all. And to ignore all the requirements regarding accessibility that any private developer would be required to provide for is beyond me. I mean, you can't call the current pathways accessible up there now. And I know that I've built before in the city of Santa Barbara on a large site, and I've got to make everything on that site accessible, not just the area I'm building in. It is short-sighted, it is not planning, it is all kinds of things that I see wrong with this current plan.
Thank you. Other comments?
I'll jump in there. Back to my building footprint wall question. I wouldn't see the outline, thank you. I wouldn't see the outline of the house in retaining walls or garden walls that architectural, because they wouldn't extend past that. And I think using rough concrete would probably be more in keeping with the whimsical spirit of both the house and the development on the site, rather than formal stone-walled garden walls that will be expensive to build. So I would encourage you to go that direction. It might also help in Commissioner McClure's comment about making the usable area of that upper area bigger. I mean, it doesn't seem to be that useful. Maybe that's the point. You go up there and you contemplate life while overlooking the city, and you're not supposed to have much more going on there. But it might be a revenue generator if you could actually use it. So that's generally my comment. I think the rougher the textures can be, the better. The entire site is rough, so sharp edges, crisp edges, a clean pointed stone, to me, don't seem to fit.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Butler.
Thank you. First, thank you for the presentation. I visited the site this morning and had some hope that the house could be rescued, but it's really unfortunate. It's a pretty desperate situation. But I would like to reinforce some of the earlier comments about access from the upper parking area to get down into this proposed area is quite confusing, if nothing else. And anyway, there needs to be a closer integration, some kind of flow process to look how would you get down to those various areas. That was one thought. Secondly, the views are what the site is about. And I would encourage you to be very cautious about where you plant. For example, using this, the terrace description, you've got a row of trees on each side, right? And that may affect both peripheral and direct views. So I would encourage you as you go through this process really to be very conscious of that, because that is the sort of the breathtaking aspect of the location. And then the location is surrounded by very heavily wooded and heavily terraced and a lot of growth around it. So to keep it simpler, make it more integrated as you think about the materials that you use, so that it sort of fits into the neighborhood. It's a beautiful area, and it's heavily overgrown. So that would be one other consideration. So in all, I think it's a good start. I would encourage the work that's done. Look forward to seeing some more definition. One thing, also the trees that are there that he planted originally, the eucalyptus tree doesn't look too good. You might want to take a look at that tree. I was there today. Like I say, it didn't look too healthy, so we wouldn't want to lose it. But on the other hand, there may be some, do an assessment of the condition of those trees.
Thank you. Commissioner Jordan.
Yes, I actually have quite a few comments. Let me start. The house can go away. It's not crucial to what's so significant about that site, and it is a significant site. My next comment is the scope of work is too small. The ADA issues have to be addressed. They simply have to be addressed. And whether that's through coming back with the same scope of work, but an agreement with the Parks Department for things that happen outside, I don't care. But the ADA issues have to be addressed. In one of your, for the small outlook, you have a view scope planted. And it's a personal comment, but I think it's really unnecessary. It's too small a gesture for too sweeping a vista. And particularly because things like that force people to wait one by one. And it's really about the sweeping vistas up there. The longer comment is one of the reasons I'm willing to see the house go away is because of what I think that site's really about and what has to be preserved. Because the Santa Barbara you see from the Franceschi site now is not the same place that the Chumash lived in for generations or that the Spanish found when they got here. Horticulturally, this is a very different place due in no small part to Francesco Franceschi. And the environmental history of this place is a critical part of the history of this community. And we have a real opportunity here before us to commemorate, to celebrate, to educate, and that's what historic preservation is about. Now, I'm also struck by the contribution of Alden Freeman. The first time I saw those medallions, and I've been up there quite a bit, I'm a birder, and I go up there certain times of the year to track warblers as they pass through. The first time I saw the medallions, I thought, what is this about? It's an eccentric collection of people, and many of which people today don't even know who they are. Today, we tend to celebrate athletes and celebrities and oligarchs, rich, powerful people who belong to that 1%. Freeman was trying to memorialize people who made a difference, who enriched American culture, who served, who made sacrifices, heroes, not just celebrities. It's an eccentric collection. It's a window into a moment of time in American political and social thought, and it's worthy of being preserved. So I would want a lot of attention to that. Part of that attention, and I'm hoping it's something that Mr. Clausen addresses, is when you have a large sculptural program like that, it's not just the individual medallions, but it's who's next to whom, and what do adjacencies mean? So I'm hoping that Mr. Clausen, who I know has researched and written about it, can contribute to that. My last comment is, finally, Santa Barbara has a rich history, and there are a lot of people in this community who know that history intimately. They've researched it, they've written about it, they guarded it when they could. The city should listen to their advice, take advantage of their expertise, and figure out ways to work with them so that you're capturing all that this town knows about that site.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any comments?
I think you summed it up.
Can't top that one.
Okay.
Chair.
Commissioner Ensberg.
Yes, I do also have some comments as well. I have a number of comments. And I want to just start by, appreciating all the work that everyone has done here. Parks and Rec, definitely, the community, and this very talented team of architects. I know this team, and they can do anything given whatever program is handed to them. So I know that they are very skilled, and I appreciate that. I just want to say I'm very familiar with the historic park and this house that is the structure of merit. I've been inside the house many years ago and on numerous occasions. And I also visited the historic park today. And I also listened to the council meeting from June 23rd, 2015. And I fully agreed. There were some very passionate remarks by Barbara Lowenthal, which I really appreciated and which I fully agreed with. I also listened to the council meeting of February 13, 2018, and I related to and appreciated Councilwoman Snedden's expression of a sadness for the loss of the building. I think that, so I'm sorry, these may be in kind of random order, but I support the 2015 option, which was to stabilize and make the house weather tight and be more of a powerful antiquity in the site with no public access. which reduces a lot of expense if you're not redoing the entire interior. Much of the cost is around a full restoration. I think that further exterior restoration of windows and things like that can happen over time, but that it could be stabilized in maybe from the exterior. I think there's nothing like the real thing. And I think that the remains of a foundation and interpretive panels, I find them sort of depressing, actually. And what is so important about Mr. Franceschi's life work and home includes the full composition of this property that he owned and that he designed on this spectacular site, with the gardens and the architecture, with such, someone said, quirky but unusual artistic elements that tell the unique story. So I feel like it's really a loss, and I realize this is kind of maybe water under the bridge, and that the decision has been made. But this design, although as I say, I so admire and appreciate the work, it feels very serious and kind of heavy to me, almost like a memorial instead of a celebration. Especially with the wall with the medallions on it, it almost feels like, yeah, like a memorial. So finally, I just feel that, historic restoration and preservation is so highly specialized and particular work, and that I do not believe it's fair to put the responsibility for historic elements onto our Parks and Rec department. Their skill and expertise is, specific to the management of our many parks, recreational areas, and programs. So this is why, we've been talking about it here in our commission about the great need for an independent Department of Historic Preservation to work with this commission and to be which should be the driver of discussions and decisions about our many historic structures and landscapes. And I think two more things. We can look at, restoration is not inexpensive. We know that. And I think you can look, we have many examples. Look at the restoration work at the Presidio that has been done by the Trust for Historic Preservation. Look at the work of the Courthouse Hall of Records, which Commissioner Uli was very much involved with, of the restoration of that skylight in there. It's always expensive, but it's a high priority. It's really important. So I would like to appreciate this gentleman from Italy who spoke and recommend that we hire him. So with that, please, accept my comments, and again, appreciation to everyone, the Parks and Rec Department, the community, all of you for all your work. And I just wish that there was a way that we could find to save this element, to have the entire site as it was designed. Thank you.
Does that engender further comments?
Mr. Chair, takes my brain a little while to kick in. The park itself, and could we have the master plan of the whole park? Yeah, that one. So it's really curvilinear. The only rectangle in the whole park is the restroom, the maintenance shed, the caretaker's house, and the existing Franceschi house. That's going to go away, and I think that would be the only time you should have a rectangle in that park. I think those walls need to be curved. I think everything should be opened up to the city, because the view is the primary driving force of going up that hill. This morning, I went up there this morning. It was a wonderful view, not a breath of wind, and nobody there except KYT News. And
there just after I was.
They looked at me askance. They didn't. But I think that the rectangular reinforcing terraces, I think they should just be eliminated to as much of the footprint of the house as needed, but that they should be curved out. Curvilinear, I think, should be the preeminent language. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, I'm thinking that maybe some straw poles would be handy. So one of those would be about the patio. And, well, let me start with the house. How many people are accepting of losing the house?
Ask the question again.
How many people are accepting of losing the house? Okay, so a majority is accepting of losing the house. How many people are comfortable with the patio, the size it is, and the shape that it is? Maybe I could phrase that better, or come up with, how many people feel that the patio should be bigger and perhaps more curvilinear? I think there's general consensus on that. How many people
Chair,
feel?
I'm sorry, could I just say, this is a little odd, because I don't know if it should be curvilinear, if it should be more in the footprint of the house, you know, so that people understand that it wasn't just a park, it was a residence, and there was a residence there. So I'm wondering about that. I guess I can just vote.
I'll ask a different question.
Okay.
How many people feel that the terrace should be exactly the same as the footprint of the house? I'm not sure. It's pretty big. Yeah, okay.
It's more interpretive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's-
Okay, so, I mean, these are suggestions, these are not conditions right now, but just taking the temperature. What's that? Well, no, there's support for that, so if they want to explore it, there's support for it. How many people support an alternative to sandstone walls that are very structured and formal, and something more rustic, perhaps concrete, that might have rock inclusions in it? Okay, so there's support for that. Yeah, funky.
Whimsical.
Whimsical.
Rough.
Okay, so the comments would be
We're gonna get some
we have,
Pardon my interruption.
we had
Commissioners.
mom before, now we have dad.
If I could just remind all the commissioners to turn on your mics and make sure that you're speaking into them. We're having a hard time hearing out here.
Okay, I'll get closer to my mic.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Producer is having a problem.
Yeah.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Commissioner Lenbeck.
I continue to be concerned about any physical improvements in the area where the house is or was, any physical improvements that don't adequately connect to the visitor-serving areas of the site, the parking area, the overlooks, the tables, whatever. This appears to me to be an investment of a lot of money in curved patios and extended view things or whatever, with 2 or 3 handicap parking places that I can't use, but I do use the parking lot and I can't get to this area. There's a disconnect, in the program somehow about what's there now and what's going to be there in the future. And I can't get my hands around this. I wish Mr. Uli would help me on this.
Commissioner Uli.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Uli's
I
next.
think Commissioner Jordan addressed that pretty emphatically, that it can't go forward without ADA access properly done. It can't
Yeah,
work.
I'll comment on that when I summarize.
Help me, Mr.
Commissioner
Uli.
Uli.
Mr. Chair, I believe that the ADA will require compliance, and if there are any federal dollars attached to this project, the federal source will require compliance with ADA. So I think through the building process, those things will get sorted out and compliance will be had, so.
Exactly. Okay, so comments are that we are very grateful for this excellent presentation, very thorough and informative. In general, the comments would be that we are not entirely accepting of the patio proposal as presented, and would like to see alternatives explored that include something more curvilinear or more relating to the footprint of the house, and consider the size of the patio, whether or not it should be larger. As far as the walls, we would prefer that they not be the formal sandstone walls that are presented, but something more rustic, more whimsical, perhaps cast concrete, perhaps with sandstone inclusions in the concrete. The commission is accepting of the loss of the house. There was an excellent comment made to consider this being less like a memorial and a bit more celebratory. Accessibility is recognized as a big concern, and we will be looking to hear more about what your solutions are to that when you return, because obviously you'll be required to do something. The compass rose as presented, needs to be thought out better and something more appropriate for the design. And I don't think there's another straw poll. Is there big support for the view scopes? No, there's not really big support for those. Any other comments I should add?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes. One other thing I wanted to mention is that I'm very grateful for this hearing today and that we're being involved, and I would encourage that we continue to be involved with every single thing regarding historic issues. And I have not, in all the meetings that I went back through, there was barely a mention of HLC. The only one I picked up on, and maybe this was me just missing something, but the only mention was in the June 15th meeting, there was a brief mention of HLC approval that was based on, at that time, a master plan, which was to preserve the house. And that master plan included extensive rework, major renovation of both the interior and the exterior. And that was the position of HLC in 2015. And I haven't seen anything from that time moving forward that said anything else. So I know that there's been a lot of discussion by others about it, and that it seems that the removal is sort of a foregone conclusion at this point. But I just want to make that comment that that's our job, is to be preserving and protecting the historic resources. And so I really hope that we will do better in the future to include this body.
I will just comment on that in Italy, the buildings are built out of stone and they last forever. And these wood frame things, just if they're neglected, just fall apart. So I appreciate your concern, but a lot of people have tried many, many times to restore the house, and it just never gets anywhere. So,
And excuse me, Chair House, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that this was in 2015. That was the discussion, and that was the answer. So
and there's been much discussion since.
Right, but I don't think it has included this HLC. That was what HLC said in 2015.
Yeah.
And then now we're here today.
Today, the HLC said we're accepting of losing the house.
Yes, most everyone did.
Yeah.
I was the only one who didn't.
Yeah.
But I believe that's a decision that has been made by council already, regardless of anything we might say here. So anyway,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
In the summary of your comments, so we touched on the building, we touched on materials, we touched on setting and design and size. I suppose we kind of skirted around a materials palette, but not really. But I don't remember you summarizing any comments about the landscape. I think Commissioner McClure made a couple of comments about landscape, so I think you ought to wrap that in there, too.
Agreed, and tied to that, if I may.
Oh, yeah,
The
you
aspect
had-
of that had, with views, we keep talking
Yes,
about,
yes.
and I think that's landscape, I add my comment, I think that's related to your point, relates to the landscaping.
I think,
View preservation.
I think they're on a fine path. I don't have any, I think you're doing a good job.
Okay, so I think the comment about landscaping is that we generally are accepting of the landscaping as proposed and would be supportive of some higher water use so that the landscape palette properly reflects Dr. Franceschi.
And I did agree with, I wanted to mention that I think Keith's point about those trees blocking views was a good one.
Yeah.
Mr. Vice Chair, there was a letter from Susan Chamberlain, landscape architect, and she takes issue with some of the of the positions, I believe they came out of the reports regarding materials, landscape plant materials. And I'm wondering if the landscape architect and the planner concur with what her comments are, or concerned about them, or whatever. I certainly have a lot of respect for her, and want to make sure that we are, giving consideration to her comments.
Do you have any comment on that?
Commissioner, in regards to her planting comments, I very much warranted. She referenced some historical documents that we had not referenced yet. So it was great to read her letter earlier today, and we'll be taking those comments into consideration.
Good.
Thank you. All right, so are we done?
We don't need a motion?
No, no motion. It's just one-time pre-application review.
Good luck. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks, everybody, for coming, and,
I think this is the most people we've had in a while.
yeah. Yeah.
Pardon the interruption. Can you officially adjourn the meeting? Thank you.
This meeting is adjourned.